Chapter 664. What else do you know? Yun Tianyo's eyes were filled with wariness. Mu Yaja raised his eyebrows wickedly. Isn't this enough? Arms smuggling and oil monopoly. This is a crime. I didn't expect my son to be the head of the arms syndicate. It's so scary. Mu Yaja patted his chest as if he were truly frightened. Yun Tianyu was completely speechless. Pretentious. What an actor. He clearly looked very calm, all right? How contemptible. This man was too black-bellied. He was even more black-bellied than he had imagined. Mu Yaja pondered for a moment before asking, "Say, do you think your mommy will get a heart attack because of you being the head of the arms syndicate at such a young age?" Yun Tianyu smiled disdainfully, his face full of contempt. "Even if you tell her, she'll only believe me and not you. After all, in her eyes, I'm the cutest and most gentlemanly baby. What if I have evidence?" Mu Yaja suddenly retorted. Yun Tianyu was startled. "What? I'm sure your mommy will be very surprised if I have evidence of your identity." The evil smile on Mu Yaja's face was glaring. Yun Tianyu gritted his teeth, thinking that this man was really abominable. If he could, he really wanted to tear apart this black-bellied smiling face. Your mommy is like a pure and innocent little rabbit. If she knows that her son is the head of the arms syndicate, won't she be frightened? Yun Tianyu pressed, "How much do you know?" Mu Yaja looked up at the sky. He put on an innocent look as if he knew nothing. However, Yun Tianyu knew that this man probably knew everything about him. No matter how unwilling he was, he had to compromise. With a frown and pursed lips, he asked, "What's the condition of confidentiality?" "Let me hear you call me Daddy." Mu Yaja raised his arrogant chin. The topic was back to square one again. Yun Tianyo's face flushed red. It was so hot that it almost emitted smoke. How embarrassing. If he did not call him that, he was really afraid that this man would tell his mommy about his identity. If mommy knew that he was playing with firearms and oil, wouldn't she be so scared that she would have a heart attack, as he said? She might even destroy him. He dared not imagine what kind of scary situation that would be. He originally intended to keep this matter a secret. He thought that Mu Yaja would not be able to find out his identity. He did not expect that he had underestimated this man. Yun Tianyu gritted his teeth and gave him a sidelong glance before turning around. With his back facing his father, he held the corner of the table for support and practically squeezed out 2 words through gritted teeth. "Dad, D." She was gnashing her teeth in humiliation. His voice was as soft as a mosquito, almost inaudible. Shouting these 2 words was already the limit for him. Mu Yaja, however, did not appreciate her kindness and replied in a harsh tone, "I didn't hear you." Yun Tianyu angrily turned around and accused, "You clearly heard it." "I didn't hear it." "Really?" "I swear." Mu Yaja raised his palm in a serious manner. Yun Tianyu gritted his teeth in anger. "Mu Yaja, do you believe that I'll blow up your Mu group's headquarters?" Mu Yaja said, "Son, you're so cruel. I'm going to tell your mommy. You only know how to complain." Yun Tianyu exploded in anger. "What can you do to me?" Mu Yaja looked at his little face, which was red from anger. It was tender, and adorable. He could not help but pinch it. Chapter 665. Call me Daddy. "Daddy, your voice is a little soft." Yu clenched his fists and decided to bear with it. "Daddy. Can't you be gentler?" "Daddy." When Yun Shishir finished cooking the noodles and entered the study room, she saw this scene. She saw Yun Tianyu standing in front of Mu Yaja with downcast eyes and calling out softly, "Daddy, Daddy." Each call was softer than the last. Each call was cuter than the last. Mu Yaja's ears were very pleasing to the ear. Yun Shishir could not help but be stunned. Since when did this father-son pair have such a good relationship? She cleared her throat and coughed a few times. Yun Tianyu glanced at her from the corner of his eye and saw her standing at the door. He immediately stood up straight with an innocent and adorable smile on his face. "Mommy." Yun Shishir helplessly hugged her arms. "What are you guys doing?" Yun Tianyu's face inexplicably turned red when he heard this. Mu Yaja, however, answered blandly, "We're exchanging feelings." Yun Shishir, Yun Tianyu, how shameless. "Who's exchanging feelings with you? You're the one who's sticking to me. I'm not exchanging feelings with you. Who has feelings for you? Yun Tianyu felt extremely humiliated. "I'll never play with this man again." He angrily stomped his feet and then looked at Yun Shishir with an extremely resentful and aggrieved expression. His big, watery eyes were glistening with tears. He looked as if he was about to cry. Yun Shishir, however, was completely in a daze. She did not understand that this child, who had always rejected Mu Yaja, was now calling him daddy with each call sweeter than the last. Did I see a ghost? Or, Yun Shishir suddenly glared suspiciously at Mu Yaja. Did you bully my baby? Her eyes were as sharp as a gun. Mu Yaja immediately raised his hands innocently and stood up. He pursed his lips and explained, "I'm innocent. I didn't do anything." Both father and son looked at him pitifully and innocently. Yun Shishir was stunned. He actually had a misconception. The father and son in front of him looked more innocent than the other. They were like two dogs wagging their tails and begging for mercy. They were quite cute. Although this analogy was not very kind. But, it was indeed very similar. Yun Shishir suddenly couldn't help but laugh out loud. Seeing her suddenly smile, Yun Tianyu felt even more aggrieved. His expression crumbled as he softly whined, "Mommy, all right, the noodles are ready." After saying that, Yun Shishir turned around and entered the restaurant. Yun Tianyu turned his head to glare fiercely at his father. Mu Yaja lowered his eyes to look at him with a sinister smile. "Are you satisfied? Mu Yaja? What did you call me?" Mu Yaja knitted his brows in displeasure. "Call me daddy. Be good. I've already called you daddy." Yun Tianyu felt that it was necessary to remind him not to push his luck. Mu Yaja could not help laughing when he saw his awkward look. The little guy was good in every way. He was just especially arrogant and awkward. Asking him to call him daddy was akin to forcing him to swallow a gun. Was it that difficult? "You did call me daddy earlier, but my condition is that you call me daddy forever." "Forever?" Yun Tianyu was shocked. He clenched his fists so tightly that smoke was about to rise from the top of his head. "Mu Yaja, isn't your request too much?" "How is it too much? I'm your daddy, you're my son." Chapter 666. Hearing this, Mu Yaja's eyes turned into crescents. He squatted down slightly and held his shoulders. He quietly looked at the little lad at eye level. There was no need to hide the affection in his eyes. His thin lips parted slightly as a few words escaped his lips. "Is it too late now?" His tone and expression were serious. Yun Tianyu was slightly taken aback and stunned. "Is it too late for me to dote on you, pamper you, and love you now?" Mu Yaja could not help holding his little hand and gently massaging the back of it with his fingers. The little lad's hand was soft and fleshy. It was the softness of a 7-year-old child. His skin was as white as snow, and the blood vessels under his skin were clearly visible. His fingertips were adorably pinkish. It was hard to imagine that this pair of hands had created so many incredible legends. It was this pair of hands that had destroyed the Pentagon's defense system just a few minutes ago. His son was a genius. Even though he was only 7 years old, his achievements had attracted the attention of the world. It was as if a powerful soul was hidden in his small body. Incredible. This was his son. He should be proud of him. He should be extremely gratified to have such an outstanding and talented son. However, now, as he held his tender little hand, Wuxia felt a sourness spreading in his heart. His heart ached. His heart really ached for this child. No matter how outstanding his achievements were, there was no doubt that he was only a 7-year-old child. He did not even know how to imagine what kind of childhood he had. While investigating his background and identity, he also received a thick stack of medical reports. According to the reports, the child had spent most of his time in the hospital before he was 3 years old. Congenital heart insufficiency, asthma, past respiratory syndrome. Wuxia squeezed his little hand, the heartache in his eyes overflowing. Yun Tianyu was stunned for a moment before he slowly withdrew his little hand from his father's. It's probably too late, right? His brows furrowed slightly as he pursed his lips. I'm already used to it. He was strong enough now. He was strong enough to protect his mommy. The wealth and power he possessed were more than enough to protect this family. Other than mommy, nothing else matters to me. With that, he slowly turned around, took a deep breath, and left the study room. Wuxia's lips curled into a smile as he stared at the man's back. He could tell that the child yearned for his embrace so much. That day in the hospital, when she hugged him, her small hands carefully wrapped around his waist and nestled in his embrace. Although it was only for a moment, she was as obedient as a kitten that had retracted its claws. It was just that he was stubborn and stubborn. After all, 7 years of estrangement was neither deep nor shallow, but there was still a chasm between them. It seemed that it would not be easy to walk into his heart and make him accept him as his father. Yun Tianyu was holding a bowl of noodles in satisfaction when she entered the dining room. The moment she saw him, her gaze instantly changed, and her expression became somewhat complicated. Yun Xianxia asked, Yu, how's mommy's cooking? Great. Yu clapped his hands and was not stingy with his praise. The noodles were not burnt, the noodles were not half-cooked, and the taste was not salty or bland. Her cooking had improved. Chapter 667. As long as he did not get food poisoning after eating it, he would like anything his mommy made personally. He would not reject anything. Yun Xianxia also prepared Wuxia's portion. The man sat at the table and took a bite, too. His brows furrowed. This time, her culinary skills did not amaze him as much as the previous time. Moreover, there was a little too much salt, so his throat was a little sore. It was not up to standard. What he did not know was that the noodles Yun Xianxia made the last time he tasted it was the best she had ever made. Yun Xianxia noticed his frown and asked anxiously, "What's wrong?" "It doesn't taste good." Wuxia put down his chopsticks and opened his mouth. Just as he was about to give his review, he was acutely aware of a warning gaze on him. He followed his line of sight and saw Yun Tianyu clenching his chopsticks tightly. His piercing gaze seemed to be warning him that he would only accept 5-star reviews and not negative ones. If you can do it, then do it. If you can't, then don't talk nonsense. It was as if he were to give a negative review of this bowl of noodles, the little lad would blow up the Mu Group's headquarters in a fit of rage the next second. He was simply a mommy protector. Under Yun Tianyu's icy gaze, Wuxia cleared his throat and praised against his will, "Yes, it tastes good." Only then was Yun Tianyu satisfied. Yun Xianxia raised her brow in surprise. "Really? It's really delicious." Yun Tianyu said, "My mommy is a 5-star chef." Wuxia's lips twitched. This flattery was not exaggerated at all. If such a standard was a 5-star chef standard, then all the hotels under the Mu Group should close down. Seeing his strange expression, Yun Tianyu's icy gaze pierced him like a ray. It was as if he was asking, "Why? Are you not convinced?" Convinced. Wuxia hardened his heart, gritted his teeth, and forced himself to finish the noodles. Yun Tianyu, on the other hand, was quietly lowering his eyelashes. Be it his posture or his movements, they were incomparably elegant. He was a living example of an aristocratic little gentleman. It was as if he were not eating a bowl of home-cooked noodles but was in a high-class Western restaurant. He had a natural aristocratic temperament. Just a bowl of noodles was enough to show that he was an aristocrat. He was not an ordinary person. When Yunshishir saw that Mu Yaja had finished all the noodles, she was delighted. "Doesn't it taste great?" "Very good." Mu Yaja praised against his will. As he spoke, he took the handkerchief and carefully wiped the corners of his lips. "In our family, Yu's cooking is the best. If there's a chance next time, you should try it." Yu immediately said cutely, "Yu only cooks for mommy." With that, he gave Mu Yaja a disdainful look. It was as if to say, "Give up. He only cooks for mommy and won't cook for you." This lad, he was too biased. Mu Yaja's eyes expressed his protest. Yun Tianyo's eyes expressed his protest. He refused to admit, accept, or carry it out. His protest was invalid. The two of them, one eyebrow and one eye, faced each other in the air. They did not speak and only communicated with their eyes. Yunshishir watched them exchange flirtatious glances and was a little confused. However, she couldn't understand why the two of them were exchanging glances with each other. This was probably a special tacit understanding between father and son. After this incident, Yun Tianyu realized with regret that he seemed to have suffered a huge loss. He was actually led by the nose by this man. Chapter 668. Min Yu walked up to him nervously and reported, "Chairman Mu, the company's internal network seems to have been attacked by a hacker. It's paralyzed." "Paralyzed?" Mu Yaja raised his eyebrows and asked suspiciously, "How could the internal network be paralyzed? Did the technical department deal with it? This hacker seems to be very powerful." The technical department is currently racking their brains trying to figure out how to fix the loophole." "Loophole?" He walked into the office and turned on his computer. His computer was the mainframe that connected to the company's network. Even if the hacker was very powerful, this computer should not have fallen. However, in the next second, he was slapped in the face by reality. On the screen, a program window suddenly popped up and an explosive dance song suddenly rang throughout the office. Uptown Funk. On the screen, along with the music, countless chicks were twisting their butts and dancing on the screen. A few words slowly floated above their heads. "Idiot. Idiot. Idiot." Then, there was a mocking voice. "Ha ha ha." Mu Yaja's face instantly turned pale. He leaned back slightly and rubbed his smooth chin. There was no need to think about who was the mastermind behind all this. On the screen, a few chicks with arrogant expressions were still waving their handkerchiefs and dancing. "Idiot. Idiot. Idiot." Yunshishir received a call from Lin Fengtian. At first, when she saw Lin Fengtian's call on the screen, she could not help but feel guilty. Last time, because of Mu Yaja, the crew had damaged a few pieces of equipment. It must have been a great blow to their vitality. She did not know if Director Lin would blame her. After all, this happened because of her. She really felt guilty. With an uneasy feeling, Yunshishir picked up the phone. Lin Fengtian's excited and emotional voice came from the other end of the phone. "Shishir, you are my goddess." Yunshishir was confused. "What do you mean, Director Lin? I don't quite understand." "You don't know?" While Lin Fengtian felt strange, he quickly recounted what had happened in the past few days. It turned out that after Mu Yaja lost his temper, he ordered the crew of The Green Apple to stop filming. The videotapes were also confiscated. The production crew had damaged several sets of equipment, and the film inside had not been exported in time. Lin Fengtian was extremely depressed. Forget about the few damaged equipment, but they were all shots of the campus. It wouldn't be a big deal if they didn't take any more shots when the time came. But the thing that made him depressed was that the scene in the music room that day was simply impeccable. It was exciting. If he could keep this scene, even if he took a few more punches, it would not be a pity. Now that the production team had been banned and the videos had been confiscated, Lin Fengtian had no place to cry. However, the previous night, Wuxia had given him an order to contact the film crew and told him that filming could resume as usual. As for the damaged equipment, Huanyu Corporation gave him a few new sets of cameras. Not only that, the videotape of the scene in the music room was also returned to him. Everything seemed to be back on track. Then, what about Yun Shishir? Ever since he found out that Yun Shishir was Wuxia's woman, his impression of Yun Shishir had changed. Wuxia, the crown prince of Disheng Financial Group and the future head of the Mu family, was extremely powerful. Chapter 669. With Wuxia as her backer, she had everything, resources, and status. With the name Wuxia, no matter how influential she would only be a foil. However, Yun Shishir did not do that. She was a newbie in the production team. She could have used Wuxia's resources, but she did not make it public. She gave the production team a satisfactory answer with her own hard work, diligence, and capability. She was a dark horse among the newbies. Lin Fengtian was even more certain about her. However, after this incident, would Yun Shishir be able to join the production team again? Lin Fengtian was more concerned about this issue, so he carefully asked for Wuxia's opinion. The latter warned him coldly, "I have a piece of advice for you. I'm letting my woman join your show. You should have some foresight." Kissing scenes were still not allowed. At most, they were allowed to borrow the position. Bed scenes were out of the question. Holding hands and hugging, even if it was necessary for filming, there was a limit to it. This was considered a loosening of the rules. To Lin Fengtian, this was a great gift. Lin Fengtian excitedly said, "Thank you, Your Majesty." Wuxia asked, "I don't want to see what happened that day a second time." Lin Fengtian immediately explained, "Chairman Mu, you've misunderstood. This is filming, it's work. Everything is necessary for the plot." "Necessary for the plot?" Wuxia's voice deepened. "Lin Fengtian, I think you've wasted your time as a director. Can't you tell whether Gu Xingzi is acting or revealing his true feelings?" After he finished speaking, he coldly hung up the phone. Lin Fengtian held the phone. His mind went blank for a long time before he sighed in a daze. He could also tell that Gu Xingzi's reaction that day did not seem to be acting. He was a director, especially when it came to portraying pure love between a man and a woman. He had seen many top-notch actors. Gu Xingzi's superb acting skills were beyond doubt. But no matter how superb her acting skills were, acting was still acting. Any professional filmmaker would be able to tell at a glance whether an actor was acting or revealing his true feelings. Lin Fengtian could tell that Gu Xingzi was not acting. He was revealing his true feelings. His true feelings for Yun Shishir. Wuxia also saw it, which was why he lost control that day. Lin Fengtian rushed to the set. Gu Xingzi was rushing to film an advertisement. During the break, he mentioned this matter to Gu Xingzi. Gu Xingzi's expression changed when he heard this. "Director Lin, you worry too much. I have no other feelings for Yun Shishir." "Really?" Lin Fengtian was shocked. "I knew it. You're famous for being cold and aloof in the circle. If you said you liked men, I would have believed you. I really don't believe that you like Yun Shishir." In a sense, Lin Fengtian was a real thick-skinned person. He took his words seriously. Gu Xingzi's eyelids drooped slightly as he concealed the desolation that flashed across his eyes. Lin Fengtian couldn't help but praise him. "However, you really scared me that day. Xingzi, your acting skills have improved so much compared to when you first entered the film industry. Even I was shocked by your acting skills during that scene in the music room. I couldn't help but get into character. Your eyes, the look in them, the emotional tension was too strong. If I didn't know your acting skills, would have thought that you had feelings for Yunshishi. Chapter 670. The production team returned to normal. Lin Fengtian said that if it were not for her sake, the production team might have been disbanded. Yunshishi was stunned when she heard this. Shishi, no matter what, the production team is back to normal. When can you be there? Tomorrow. Yunshishi smiled brightly. The next day, she was ready to go to the production team. The main cast and crew were back in their positions. However, when Yunshishi joined the set, everyone's gaze on her became a little strange. Yan Bingqing and Yang Chang's eyes were filled with jealousy as they looked at her. Jealousy? Yunshishi was confused by these pairs of eyes and had no idea what was going on. Shi also rushed to the production team in the afternoon. When she saw Yunshishi, her expression was a little strange. Yunshishi could not help it. What's wrong with you guys? Why are you all staring at me with such strange eyes? Shi said embarrassedly, Shishi, sorry, you misunderstood me. I didn't expect you to come to the production team for filming. I'm surprised. Why do you think so? Cough. It's because you're now the unspeakable goddess in the production team. Everyone wanted to worship her like a goddess. Yunshishi did not understand what she meant. What unspeakable goddess? What was all this about? Why was she so confused? Shi found it funny. Shishi, you can do whatever you want in the production team now. Who dares to offend you? Under Yunshishi's puzzled gaze, Shi recounted everything to her. It turned out that before she came, Lin Fengtian had gathered everyone for a secret meeting. The topic of the meeting was mostly related to the reorganization of the production team, and one point was mentioned. Previously, in the production team, he noticed that many stage and stage managers, as well as many A-list assistants, were more or less finding trouble for Yunshishi. Yan Bingqing, in particular, used her status to bully newbies, assistants, and even extras. All of them had to give her face. Shi, in particular, was ostracized by her. Yan Bingqing's incident was heavily criticized. Although he didn't mention her name, he gave her enough face. However, when Lin Fengtian mentioned this, the crew members all guessed who this person was. He was well aware of this. Yan Bingqing loved to ostracize newcomers and bully young actresses. In order to gain the most exposure, it could be said that she would do anything. Yan Bingqing, who was sitting in her seat, had an extremely ugly expression on her face. His face turned green. Lin Fengtian reminded them again. Although Yunshishi was a newcomer, she was his exclusive newcomer. Whoever dared to make trouble for Yunshishi would be slapping him in the face. Lin Fengtian had the highest status in the crew. Who dared to offend him? He was the famous Yama Scissorhands. Once, an important female lead in his movie tried to play the big shot with him, but he cut that role into a supporting role in a matter of minutes. No one dared to go against him. After all, he had Huan Yu's higher-ups behind him. After this meeting, everyone was in awe of Yunshishi and no longer dared to bully her like they did in the past. They were much more polite. As her assistant, Shi also benefited from this. In the past, she was the most ostracized in the production team. Now, no one dared to ostracize her. When Yunshishi heard this, her face remained calm, but she was secretly criticizing in her heart. Could all of this have been secretly instructed by Wuxia? Chapter 671. A lot of scenes were lost, so Lin Fengtian hurriedly took care of reshooting. On this day, the editor was busy arranging the footage. Yan Bingqing happened to pass by and walked in. She stood behind him without any change in her expression as she watched him arrange the footage. At the same time, she also wanted to see how she would perform in front of the camera. She was quite confident in her performance. However, it didn't matter if she didn't watch. When she saw that her scenes were much less, Yan Bingqing was stunned. Many scenes of her and many of the supporting roles had been cut out during the editing process. Logically speaking, although she wasn't the main lead, she was still an extremely important character in this drama. Her scenes weren't any less than Yunshishi's. However, in these scenes that the editor had arranged, her scenes had been reduced by several times. There were many scenes where she and Yunshishi acted together, but all the scenes were given to Yunshishi. There were very few scenes that were given to her. There were many important plot segments, but her camera flashed past them with just a few strokes of the pen. It was clearly a very important scene, but all the scenes were given to Yunshishi. She estimated in her heart that Yunshishi's scenes actually occupied a total of 70% of the scenes. The more Yan Bingqing watched, the angrier she became. The anger in her heart was almost twisted. She had nowhere to vent her anger. Yan Bingqing clenched her fists tightly. Her sharp nails dug into her palms and pierced her skin. She bit her lip hard, turned around, and left. Not long after she left, Yan Bingqing hurriedly sent a junior assistant to inquire about it. The editor was almost done with his work. The junior assistant brought over some ice water to relieve the heat. She didn't report her background but casually led him to this topic. "Sir, have you finished editing all these scenes?" The editor was grateful for her thoughtfulness. Now that his work had come to an end, he had the leisure to chat with her. "It's not done yet. It's just that the scenes that were selected will be re-edited later. I just took a rough look and realized that Yunshishi has a lot of scenes." "Oh. Director Lin picked all of these," the editor said ambiguously. The assistant had been working for Yan Bingqing for many years, so he was smart. After chatting for a while and completely dispelling Yan Bingqing's vigilance, he suddenly cut to the topic. "There are several scenes with Yan Bingqing and Yunshishi. Why is Director Lin only focusing on Yunshishi's scenes and throwing away Yan Bingqing's scenes?" The editor wasn't wary of the probing in her words. Instead, he said bluntly, "I was there when Director Lin chose these shots. I watched him choose them." "Oh? Is there gossip? I say, why are you so nosy? Don't ask about anything in the production team." The editor lit a cigarette and narrowed his eyes. The junior assistant was quite pretty. She acted coquettishly in front of him. The editor couldn't resist and said bluntly, "Director Lin said that Yan Bingqing looks too old in some of the scenes. Moreover, she acted as a rebellious high school student like a white lotus." "Oh, I see." The junior assistant listened and noted it down in her heart. "Moreover, you didn't see those scenes with Yan Bingqing. I can't stand it." Chapter 672. But Yan Bingqing is a big shot after all. She's probably a big shot in a scandal. The editor put out his cigarette and couldn't help but tease, she was packaged by the public relations team behind her. Hyping up the topic and snatching exposure, there was really nothing to say about those methods. That face of hers was truly stunning. But she doesn't have any acting skills. Plus, she doesn't have the talent to be an actress and likes to change the script on her own. If it weren't for the fact that Yan Bingqing has a strong backing and landed in the cast, Director Lin wouldn't have picked her for the role. What about Yunshishi? When the junior assistant heard this, she felt indignant for her boss. She wanted to use Yunshishi as a comparison. When the editor heard this, he winked at her and said, "You don't know, Yunshishi is now a goddess in the production team. You can't talk about her." "Why can't I talk about her? Does she really think she's a big shot? She's just a newcomer. Why can't I talk about her?" The junior assistant sneered unhappily. "You don't understand this. Yunshishi probably has some background. I've been with Director Lin for 9 years and I've never seen Director Lin take so much care of an actress. Look at Gu Xingzi. When he first appeared in Director Lin's film, he was also scolded badly by him. Yunshishi is different. Of course, this newcomer has acting skills and is capable. She's also more photogenic than Yan Bingqing. In Director Lin's eyes, she must be a treasure. Then what do you think of Yan Bingqing's acting skills compared to Yun Shishi's? The editor smiled contemptuously but couldn't be bothered to comment further. He only spat out 3 words and asked her in return, can they be compared? The junior assistant returned to the lounge and told Yan Bingqing everything she had found out. She added some details and told Yan Bingqing. Yan Bingqing was so angry that she flipped the table on the spot. This was too much. What did she mean by a white lotus? What did she mean by a vase with bad acting skills? What did she mean by comparing herself to Yun Shishi? Could they be compared? That was too much. Yan Bingqing was so angry that her face was gloomy and ashen. She couldn't wait to rush in front of Yun Shishi and tear this B*TCH into pieces, so as to avoid being an eyesore in front of her all day long. She had just debuted, yet she was already able to star in Lin Fengtian's film. Furthermore, she was the female lead. Was she very proud of that? This was not the only thing she hated the most. What kind of dog*T luck did Yun Shishi have? Not only did Lin Fengtian praise her so much, but she even managed to get a gold medal team like Qin Zhou to join her. Over the past 2 days, Yun Shishi's behind-the-scenes footage on Weibo had caused a lot of heated discussions. Yun Shishi's behind-the-scenes photos of her wearing a school uniform once dominated the hot search list. Yun Shishi's performance as Yin Xiaochuan satisfied all fans of the original novel's fantasies. Even the author of the original novel reposted the post, "This is the Yin Xiaochuan in my heart, invincible in youth." Qin Zhou even made use of the resources in his hands to release press releases for several days in a row, wantonly promoting Yun Shishi. In the press releases, he praised Yun Shishi and did not forget to trample on her and Yang Mi, using them as a stepping stone. This Qin Zhou's packaging skills were top-notch, and his methods of promoting were top-notch. Even if the public relations team behind Yan Bingqing did not want to be outdone and also released press releases to trample on them, they could not withstand Qin Zhou's overwhelming press releases at all. Why? It was because Qin Zhou had close ties with almost all the major media companies. Back then, he had relied on Gu Xing's golden resources accumulated over the past 10 years. Now, almost all of them were spent on Yun Shishi. He spent a lot of money. Chapter 673. Putting this aside, the main point was that with Qin Zhou's status and backing, who would dare to go against him? Yan Bingqing's team had just released a few articles about Yun Shishi when Qin Zhou ordered his men to replace them. There was no room for negotiation at all. Yan Bingqing, Yang Mi, and the rest were furious, but they did not dare to say anything. Offending Qin Zhou was undoubtedly courting death. Qin Zhou and Gu Xingzi had held Huanyu's shares in their early years and had a seat on the company's board of directors. They were also part of the company's upper management. If they offended the company's upper management, they could be banned or frozen in a matter of minutes. Yan Bingqing did not dare to go against Qin Zhou. Hence, she allowed the manager to consume her exposure to boost Yun Shishi's popularity. However, now that even her scenes with Yun Shishi were edited to such a ridiculous state, Yan Bingqing could no longer sit still. She was too aggrieved. She had never been so aggrieved before. This Yun Shishi was so capable. A newbie was being held in such high regard. What capabilities did she have to make Qin Zhou support her so much? However, despite Lin Fengtian's repeated orders, she did not dare to make things difficult for Yun Shishi. The bird that pokes its head out will be shot. Many people were jealous of Yun Shishi, and there might even be someone who would teach her a lesson. However, it was difficult for her to vent her anger. She could not offend Yun Shishi, but she could not vent her anger on her assistant, right? Hence, during lunch, Yan Bingqing accidentally splashed the boiling hot tea in her cup onto Mu Shi. Mu Shi screamed in pain. When she lowered her head, her arm was instantly scalded red by the tea. The sun was scorching hot now. The scorching sun shone on her body and arm, causing her to cry aggrievedly. She hugged her scalded arm and bit her lower lip tightly. She glared at her with tears in her eyes, but she did not dare to say anything. Yan Bingqing looked down at her from the corner of her eyes and said with a fake smile, "Oh, I didn't do it on purpose. I'm sorry." After he finished speaking, he didn't look at her anymore. He even said regretfully, "If you hadn't bumped into me, my cup wouldn't have flipped over. My precious tribute tea is really pitiful." It was a simple sentence without any sense of guilt. It didn't sound like an apology at all. It was as if her scalding was not worth mentioning at all. It was not even comparable to the tea leaves that she had spilled. She felt extremely aggrieved. She didn't even bump into her. She was clearly the one who had poured the boiling hot tea over him. "How dare you slander me like this?" She knew very well that this Yan Bingqing was venting her anger on her because her limelight had been stolen by Unspoken. This kind of thing was very common in the production team. Moreover, this was not the first time Yan Bingqing vented her anger on her assistant. The strange thing was that she didn't take a detour when she saw Yan Bingqing. She's tears kept falling. Yan Bingqing walked to her side and lowered her head with a smile. Her voice was extremely cold. "Go back and tell your boss not to go overboard. Does she really think that she can be unrestrained just because she has Director Lin's support?" She raised her head with tears streaming down her face and looked at her in disbelief. Yan Bingqing sneered. The threat in her eyes was even more obvious. "If she wants to steal my limelight, she should weigh her own weight first. Let her remember that I'm Huanyu's real big sister. If she wants to fight with me for status, she should ask herself if she's worthy." Chapter 674. Yan Bingqing returned to the resting room triumphantly. Now that she had vented her anger, she felt refreshed. When she met a stage supervisor, she was in a good mood and greeted him with a smile. One had to know that Yan Bingqing was famous for being cold and aloof in the crew. She relied on the support of a financial backer and was used to calling the wind and calling the rain. Therefore, she could do whatever she wanted on the set. She did not give anyone a good look and was cold and cheerless. She was already in a good mood if she did not roll her eyes at them, let alone greet them with a smile. Hence, the stage supervisor could not help but feel flattered and greeted her with a smile, "Sister Bingqing." Yan Bingqing chatted with him for a while. The stage supervisor had something to do. He wanted to quickly prepare the list of extras for the next scene, so he was in a hurry to leave. Yan Bingqing suddenly called out to him. "Stop right there. I have something to ask you." When the stage supervisor heard that, he was stunned. He turned around and looked at her strangely. He said politely, "Sister Bingqing, what do you want to ask?" "You can ask directly." "Let me ask you. Between me and Unspoken, who is prettier?" After saying that, Yan Bingqing flipped her hair, raised her arrogant chin slightly, and cast a sidelong glance at him. That look was too seductive. The stage supervisor was a little mesmerized. Yan Bingqing had a pair of electrifying eyes. She was a natural seductress. However, when he came back to his senses and heard what Yan Bingqing had asked, he was stunned. This question really stumped him. This was the first time he had been put in such a difficult position. If he did not answer this question well, he would offend both sides. There was no perfect answer. If he were to say that Yan Bingqing was prettier than Unspoken, right? If his words were to reach Unspoken, he would undoubtedly offend Unspoken. If he were to say that Unspoken was prettier than Yan Bingqing in front of her, he would probably be chased out of the house immediately. If he dared to go against Yan Bingqing, he would definitely lose his job. But, the key point was that he didn't dare to offend Unspoken. He was also present at the scene in the music room that day. Therefore, he could more or less find out who the man who took Yunshishi away that night was. A person that even Lin Fengtian was in awe of must be a big shot. After that, he finally managed to find out the identity of that big shot. The president of Disheng Financial Group, Wuxia. He was just a small stage supervisor, so naturally, he had never seen such a big shot like Wuxia. There was no doubt that Yunshishi had a close relationship with him. Those who worked in the film set were naturally shrewd people who knew better than to offend others. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to survive if he had some background. The stage supervisor was momentarily at a loss as to how to answer. His slow response annoyed Yan Bingqing. Is this question difficult to answer? Or are you saying that Yunshishi is prettier than me? Sister Bingqing, you're making things difficult for me. Aren't you making things difficult for me? The stage supervisor stammered. I like Sister Bingqing the most. She's beautiful and elegant, just like a high and mighty goddess. Then can't you just answer me directly? Say that I'm prettier than Yunshishi. Say it. I don't dare. What's there to be afraid of? Yan Bingqing sneered. Yunshishi is just a newcomer. Are you afraid of a newcomer? Sister Bingqing, it's not a matter of whether I'm afraid or not. I really don't dare to offend Yunshishi. The stage supervisor decided to tell the truth. What do you mean? Chapter 675. In Yan Bingqing's eyes, Yunshishi was undoubtedly a pushover. If not for Qin Zhou behind her, she would have gotten rid of this thorn in her flesh long ago. The production assistant gritted his teeth and pleaded, Sister Bingqing, in my heart, you're definitely the most beautiful goddess. Yet, you insist on making a comparison between Sister Bingqing and Yunshishi. How am I supposed to live in this world? He wiped away his cold sweat. He had spoken against his conscience. Compared to Yan Bingqing, he liked Yunshishi more. Disregarding everything else and purely comparing character, Yunshishi was a very easy celebrity to get along with. Although she was a newbie, there were many newbies who relied on their background to throw their weight around. However, Yunshishi was not like that. On set, she was modest and gentle, very polite, and very particular about harmony. Even when dealing with a small production assistant, she would treat him with a smile. Unlike Yan Bingqing and Yang Mi, she was a little impatient. It happened to be a hot summer these few days. Seeing that the production assistant and cameraman were exposed to the scorching sun, she ordered a few boxes of ice water from her own pocket and got Mu Shi to hand them out one by one. Everyone had a bottle of ice water to relieve the heat. One had to know that such behavior in the production team was very embarrassing. Most celebrities had the airs of a celebrity. For example, Gu Xingzi. Although his character was not bad, he rarely interacted with small characters like them. After all, a celebrity's image had to be maintained. Yunshishi, on the other hand, did not have the airs of a big shot. Even if he was a small production assistant, she would fight with him. Everyone really liked Yunshishi. In terms of appearance, he did not like to compare too much. One was seductive, and the other was pure. One was mature, and the other was young. In his eyes, Yunshishi's beauty had a kind of pure vitality. It was pure and natural and was not pretentious at all. Moreover, with makeup, her facial features could adapt to the challenge of any role. The reason Yan Bingqing's acting path was very narrow was that no matter what she acted in, she always had an overly flirtatious face. She was clearly playing the role of a queen, but she acted as a silly and sweet white lotus. Yunshishi had a wide range of acting skills. First of all, her facial features could be adapted to any kind of makeup, and it didn't look out of place at all. Lin Fengtian was extremely picky, but he was full of praise for Yunshishi. Amidst the awkward atmosphere, one of Yan Bingqing's trusted aides, whom she had planted beside Yang Mi, ran over and sent the stage supervisor away. She cautiously asked, Sister Bingqing, earlier, did you splash tea on Yunshishi's assistant? How did you know? Yan Bingqing didn't show the slightest bit of fear on her face. Instead, she smiled calmly and said, I didn't do it on purpose. What are you making a fuss about? I just heard that the little assistant had blisters on her hands. But Yun Shishir is still filming and hasn't returned yet, so she doesn't know yet. So what if she knows? Yan Bingqing didn't think much of it. Do you think she'll eat me up? Sister Bingqing, if you ask me, you'd better hurry and apologize to Mu Shi. What? Yan Bingqing widened her eyes and laughed in anger. You want me to apologize to a little assistant? There's no choice. I'm just reminding you out of goodwill. That person didn't dare to say it out loud and could only remind her carefully. You weren't there that day, but I was. Yun Shishir is a newbie, and her background is a little unfavorable. Sister Bingqing, you'd better not offend her. In terms of background, how can she be compared to me? Chapter 676. That person only shook her head and said ambiguously, it's hard to say. Yan Bingqing quickly asked, what do you mean by that? However, this person was unwilling to say more. Yan Bingqing, on the other hand, did not think much of it. No matter how big her background was, could it be bigger than the sky? She had Yang Shoucheng backing her up. In the afternoon, Yun Shishir's scenes ended. When she returned to the waiting room, she saw Mu Shi arranging her makeup tools. Her eyes were red. Seeing her return, she immediately forced a smile and said, Shishir, you're back. What happened to you? Yun Shishir's mind was extremely sensitive. She could tell at a glance that something was wrong with her face. She walked over and looked at her face up close, only to find that her eyes were unbelievably swollen. She frowned and asked with concern, why are you crying? No. Mu Shi quickly turned her face away, not wanting her to see it. There were only a few reasons. Yun Shishir was so good to her. Seeing that she was being bullied by Yan Bingqing, she would definitely come to her door to argue. She did not want Yun Shishir to offend Yan Bingqing because of her. There was no need for that, was there? It was just a small injury on her arm. After washing it with cold water, it was much better. It was not a big area, so it would be fine after the blisters subsided. Mu Shi only wanted to keep the peace. Yun Shishir was slightly displeased when she saw her evasive expression. Mu, what's wrong with you? Why do you look a little weird? Who bullied you? Tell me directly. Mu Shi hurriedly shook her head. No. Don't think too much. Liar. Look at you, your eyes are swollen. You must have been bullied and cried. Yun Shishir pushed her hair away with heartache, but from the corner of her eye, she saw that her sleeve was tightly covering her arm. It was a hot day. In the past, her sleeves would be rolled up at this time. Now, one of her arms was tightly covered. Yun Shishir feels strange. She grabs Lin Luoran's arm and coincidentally holds the place where Lin Luoran was burned. Mu Shi shuddered in pain, but she seemed to be holding it in and only let out a muffled groan. He retracted his arm. Yun Shishir's heart skipped a beat. She hurriedly lifted her arm up to take a look, only to see that it was scalded red. Startled, she immediately asked, what's going on? I'm fine. I accidentally scalded myself. Who did this? Yun Shishir raised her voice slightly. Mu Shi's body trembled. Seeing that she was angry, she had no choice but to confess everything that had happened earlier. Yun Shishir was so angry that her face turned ugly. How can she be so outrageous? Yan Bingqing's temper has always been like this. Whenever something doesn't go her way, she will lose her temper. Everyone is already used to it. Shishir, do you still remember that assistant I mentioned to you before? She directly splashed me with boiling water and scalded a layer of my skin, but what can you do? Yan Bingqing has a sugar daddy backing her, no one can afford to offend her. She can be so lawless just because she has someone backing her. Unspoken found it a little unreasonable. This is too much, it's simply too much. Yes. No one dares to offend her, though. It's already considered good that I was splashed with tea by her. She's used to being lawless and arrogant. You can bully me. You can't bully my people. Unspoken pulled her hand and walked out. She exclaimed, "Sure, where are you going?" Chapter 677. She had only been away for half a day, yet she had already dared to bully her. Yan Bingqing was too much of a bully. She stubbornly refused to leave and repeatedly told her to forget about it. Sure, we don't have to offend her. Yan Bingqing's influence is quite big. Quite a few young actresses are suppressed by her. She usually associates with many rich and powerful young masters. We can't win against her. I'm not going to become enemies with her, I'm just trying to reason with her, Unspoken said unhappily. Reason? She laughed and said helplessly, this industry is like this. There's no reason. It only cares about whether you have the ability, power, background, backing, and resources. People in this industry only care about this. Reason is a joke in their eyes. I don't want to cause trouble for you. Since I've chosen this job, I'm already mentally prepared. Alright, I have my own opinions. No matter what, she has to apologize to you today. With that, Unspoken held her hand and walked toward Yan Bingqing's lounge. She followed behind and could not help but feel that Unspoken's image had suddenly become bigger. It was not that she had never been an assistant to other celebrities. The so-called assistant could be said to be livestock that worked like a cow or a horse. If a celebrity was unhappy, they could beat or scold her as they wished. Being an assistant was tough. On the surface, it seemed to be glorious and could be in the same frame as many celebrities and be in close contact with them, but in reality, being an assistant was the most difficult and the most vulnerable. There was no such thing as a celebrity who truly treated you as a friend. However, Unspoken's appearance had shattered her understanding. It turned out that there was someone as amiable as Unspoken among celebrities. She was indescribably grateful to Unspoken. Yan Bingqing's lounge was a VIP lounge that she had designated. It was luxurious and high-end, even a grade higher than Unspoken's. Yan Bingqing was very particular about the equipment on set and had strict requirements. This lounge was originally prepared for Unspoken, but Yan Bingqing snatched it away. Unspoken didn't care and gave it away. Anyway, it was just a lounge. To her, it didn't matter at all. At the entrance of the lounge, Unspoken walked in as if there was no one else around. Yan Bingqing, who was in the midst of putting on makeup, had a rough idea of what was going on when she saw her walking in with Shi. She had long expected this to happen. She wasn't afraid that Unspoken would come looking for her. Since she was here, she could give her a show of strength and teach her a lesson. Yan Bingqing smiled and asked, "What's wrong? Sister Bingqing, are you busy?" Unspoken was not as angry as the actress had imagined her to be. Instead, she gave her an amiable smile and behaved elegantly. It was a kind of elegance that seemed to come from a noble's bones. It was different from Yan Bingqing's aura. The former's aura was natural, while the latter's was just a combination of makeup and scripts. When the two stood together, it was obvious who was superior. Yan Bingqing was stunned for a moment before replying, "I'm not busy." She didn't realize that her aura had been greatly suppressed by Unspoken's frown and smile. "It's like this, I just came back from filming and saw that my assistant's arm was scalded. Although she didn't say anything to me, I heard from some people present that you were the one who splashed it. I want to ask what exactly happened." Chapter 678. Yan Bingqing said plainly as she slowly stood up. Her posture was elegant and enchanting as if she were a queen, high and mighty. She walked up to Unspoken and looked down at her condescendingly. Clearly, she was disdainful of her confrontation. "Yo! Are you a saint? You actually came to confront me over an assistant. Why? So what if I did it? As Yan Bingqing said this, her eyes turned exceptionally vicious. I did it on purpose. So what? The provocation on her face seemed to be silently declaring, even if you are my assistant, what can you do to me? Unspoken narrowed her eyes as a trace of restrained anger surfaced in her eyes. This Yan Bingqing is indeed targeting me, so she laid her hands on my assistant? How can she be so ruthless? Behind her, Mu Shi saw Yan Bingqing's serious and provocative expression. From the corner of her eye, she caught sight of Unspoken's suppressed anger and was about to explode. Afraid that things would blow up, she kept tugging at her assistant's hand and whispered, "Let's go. Let's go." She didn't want to stir up trouble. Yan Bingqing raised her eyes and saw her assistant's nervous expression. She could not help but laugh. "Look, your assistant is asking you to leave quickly. Even she knows not to offend me easily. You're the only one who doesn't take me seriously." Upon hearing this, Unspoken raised a brow mockingly. "Unspoken, this is just a piece of advice. I'm warning you, even if you have Director Lin's favor, don't bully others too much. So what if you're the female lead? So what if you're very popular now? Let me tell you, on the set, you're the junior, and I'm the senior. Please don't put on such a high and mighty attitude all day long. I'm so annoyed just looking at you." Yan Bingqing was talking to herself, but was suddenly interrupted by Unspoken's sneer. Yan Bingqing's face froze, but she heard Unspoken mocking, "I heard that you entered the entertainment industry before graduating from secondary school. What do you mean?" Yan Bingqing's heart skipped a beat. Her education level was not high, and her education level was low. She had always felt as if there was a fishbone stuck in her throat. She announced to the public that she was a university graduate. However, everyone in the industry knew that her academic qualifications were fake. Many people laughed at her, saying that she had big breasts but no brains. She really didn't have the ability to study. Unspoken smiled and said, "Education shouldn't be used to criticize people. Some people don't have high education, but they are still very cultured. But today, I have seen it for myself. Yan Bingqing, you really should study more. Otherwise, with your IQ and EQ, it would be really difficult to communicate with you." Unspoken smiled faintly. "It's really scary to be uncultured." Yan Bingqing was poked in her sore spot by her words. Her face changed abruptly, and she lost her voice in anger. Unspoken continued to press her. "Is it because I don't flatter you like others?" Yan Bingqing was so angry that she could not speak. Zhenzhen was really pissed off. "Unspoken, how dare you? Hey, Yan Bingqing, are you sick?" Unspoken interrupted her impatiently. "What?" Unspoken did not avoid the viciousness in her eyes and said bluntly, "I think you're sick. A very serious princess syndrome." Yan Bingqing was stunned. "This B***tch actually said that I have princess syndrome." Mu Shi, who was behind her, was completely stunned. She did not expect that Unspoken, who usually looked gentle and elegant, would be so venomous once she got angry. Chapter 679. Unspoken slowly took a step closer to her and sneered. "Some people are pampered and arrogant because they were born as a princess doted on by everyone. Some people, on the other hand, are pretentious and arrogant. They are clearly not princesses, yet they still want to have the bad temper of one. This is called princess syndrome, do you understand?" Yan Bingqing's face contorted in anger as she glared at her with gritted teeth. Unspoken stared into her eyes and said in a tone that brooked no argument, "Apologize to her." "Why should I?" Yan Bingqing, apologize to her. Unspoken, don't go overboard. You're the one who's going overboard. Unspoken raised her chin haughtily and enunciated each word clearly. Apologize. To her. Shut up. Yan Bingqing abruptly raised her hand and ruthlessly slapped her face. Mu Shi could not help but cry out in alarm when she saw this. Yun Shishir sneered, grabbed her wrist, and slapped her back. Pa! It wasn't a heavy sound, but it was clear and loud enough. This slap is mine. Her face was calm and her tone was unusually calm, but between the lines, there was an inviolable majesty. Yan Bingqing was stunned. While she was in a daze, Yun Shishir walked to the table, picked up a cup of cold water, and returned to Yan Bingqing. She raised her wrist and splashed the water on her face. Crash! The water splashed on Yan Bingqing's freshly made-up face and drenched it. The water flowed along her eyelashes, the tip of her nose, and dripped down her cheeks. Yan Bingqing was caught off guard when the water splashed on her face. She took a deep breath and closed her eyes, letting the water drip down. Yun Shishir slowly said, "This is for Mu Shi." With that, she ignored the anger on Yan Bingqing's face and walked away with Mu Shi. Yan Bingqing was so angry that her whole body trembled. The assistant behind her quickly picked up a towel and hurriedly wiped the water on her face. This wipe ruined more than half of the makeup she had put on. The assistant was careful, but she still accidentally hurt her. Yan Bingqing angrily pushed them aside and shouted, "Get lost! Get lost! All of you, get lost!" The assistants looked at each other and then scrambled away, afraid that Yan Bingqing would be implicated in her anger. She was the only one left in the spacious lounge. Yan Bingqing sat in front of the dressing mirror and looked at herself. Her face was in a terrible state, and her clothes were drenched. The makeup on her face was done in less than an hour. As for the clothes on her body, she had to borrow them from the costume team. Thinking that she still had to act in the next scene, this Yun Shishir was clearly trying to embarrass her. Good. Very good. Yun Shishir, just you wait. Back in the lounge, Mu Shi was still in a state of shock. She looked at Yun Shishir, who was sitting in front of the mirror with a calm face. Thinking of the scene earlier, she could not help but tremble in fear. Seeing Yun Shishir's calm face, she could not help but tremble. "Shishir, aren't you afraid?" "Afraid of what?" Yun Shishir was confused. "Afraid that Yan Bingqing will take revenge on you." Yun Shishir smiled, thinking that she was making a mountain out of a molehill. Yan Bingqing is not a monster. Will she eat me? Chapter 680. I know. Yun Shishir put down the powder in her hand and looked at her seriously. I know what kind of person Yan Bingqing is, so I don't offend her easily. Mu Shi, you should know that I'm not someone who likes to stir up trouble. If I can give in, I'll give in. Hence, when Yan Bingqing wanted to occupy her waiting room, Yun Shishir did not fight with her and chose to take a step back. Yan Bingqing had repeatedly made things difficult for her, ostracized her, and badmouthed her. She did not argue with her either. She just wanted to finish filming in peace. That was all. However, this doesn't mean that I'm weak. I have my principles, too. Yun Shishir looked at her assistant and said lightly, "She can go against me, but I can't tolerate it when she implicates the people around me." Mu Shi was deeply shocked by her serious words. Perhaps, in the eyes of many, I seem to be a weak person. But whether I'm weak or timid, everyone has a reverse scale. She was touched, but she could not hide the worry on her face. But, what if she takes revenge on you? Shishir, you don't have to offend such a person for me. What will you do if she takes revenge on you? I'll deal with whatever comes my way, Yun Shishir said lightly. Mu Shi looked at her calmly and worriedly. There was a scene in the afternoon between Yun Shishir and Yan Bingqing. However, Yan Bingqing did not arrive after a long time. Lin Fengtian waited for a long time but still did not see her. He was so angry that he almost cut off the scene. In the end, Yan Bingqing's assistant came in a hurry to report that Yan Bingqing had a fever. Fever? Lin Fengtian cursed a few times. He had only heard of people suffering from heatstroke in this weather, he had never heard of a fever. He did not know what she was up to now. Forget it, forget it. Lin Fengtian hurriedly arranged for the next scene. Because Yan Bingqing was sick, this scene could only be postponed. Yun Shishir frowned suspiciously. She didn't know what Yan Bingqing was up to. Could it be that she had caught a cold and had a fever after splashing a cup of water on her? He was too weak to stand up to a gust of wind. She whispered into her ear, Shishir, maybe she didn't have time to touch up her makeup and got her clothes wet. She's afraid that the director will blame her, so she found an excuse. Only then did Yun Shishir come to a realization. After filming in the afternoon, Lin Fengtian announced the end of the day's filming because the weather was too hot. For the past few days, the filming had been going very smoothly. Lin Fengtian was in a good mood and suggested that he invite Gu Xingzi and Yun Shishir to have a meal together. He felt that ever since that incident, there was something strange between the two of them. Everyone was very engrossed in filming, but after filming, Gu Xingzi and Yun Shishir had almost zero interaction. Even when filming, Gu Xingzi was absent-minded from time to time, sometimes forgetting his lines. Although these were small mistakes, Lin Fengtian noticed them. Thus, he pondered for a meal to let the two familiarize themselves with each other. Yun Shishir apologetically refused. Director Lin, I'm sorry, I still have something to do back home. What is it? I still have to take care of my father when I get back. In fact, Yun Yecheng had rushed back to his hometown to attend the funeral. She was worried about leaving the little lad alone at home. Although Li Hanlin was fetching him to school, it was rare for it to end so early, so she wanted to rush back to give him a surprise. Naturally, she could not be frank with Lin Fengtian about this. Chapter 681. When they reached home, Yun Shishir purposely walked softly in order to give little Munchkin a surprise. The moment she entered the house, she saw the school bag on the sofa. Yun Shishir walked into the kitchen and didn't see little Munchkin. Instead, she saw the groceries she had bought from the market placed on the countertop. She glanced at it. It was a sumptuous meal of meat and vegetables. Yun Shishir walked to the study and pushed the door open. Little Munchkin was scrolling through Weibo in the study. These 2 days, he had been paying attention to the official Weibo of The Green Apple. Mommy left early and returned late because of filming. He rarely had the time to spend with Mommy like before. He could only follow Mommy's progress on the set through the behind-the-scenes photos that were posted on Weibo. Hearing the door open, he looked up in shock. When he saw that it was Yun Shishir, he was surprised. Mommy! You're back! As he spoke, he flew into her warm embrace. Mommy, you missed you so much. Little fool, Mommy and you haven't seen each other for a day. Yun Shishir scratched his nose, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Yu lifted his little face and replied in all seriousness, how could that be? Why do I feel like I haven't seen Mommy for a year? Is it that exaggerated? It's called, a day feels like a year. Mommy is stupid. Yu smiled gently and planted a kiss on her cheek. Mommy, why are you back so early today? Because I missed my Yu. Yun Shishir couldn't help but pinch his cheeks. They were chubby. They felt good. She couldn't help but pinch them a few more times. Little Munchkin didn't look aggrieved at all. He looked at her with a smile as if he was an adorable doll, obediently allowing her to do whatever she wanted to him. Little Munchkin seemed to have put on some weight recently. At least his face wasn't as thin as before. It was chubby and cute. Aya, how can my Yu be so cute? Yun Shishir rubbed her face against his. Little Munchkin's watery eyes curved into crescents as he enjoyed this intimacy. If it was possible, he wouldn't get sick of it even if his mommy pinched his face for 1,000 years or even 10,000 years. It's because Mommy is so beautiful, so beautiful. Yu inherited Mommy's beautiful genes. That's why Yu is so cute. With this compliment, Unspoken was so proud that she could fly to the sky. She couldn't help but rub his hair. Our Yu is so sweet. Mommy loves you so much. Hee hee. Yu emphasized seriously, Yu is telling the truth, the truth. All right. Be good. Then mommy will go watch some TV first. When Yu is done making dinner, you can massage mommy's shoulders. Unspoken nodded. Yun Tianyu then went straight to the kitchen. Unspoken sat on the sofa and watched TV for a while. Coincidentally, she switched to an entertainment channel, which was broadcasting an interview with an entertainment reporter on set 4, The Green Apple. When the interview came to Yan Bingqing, the reporter asked a sharp and piercing question. Yan Bingqing, many fans on Weibo are comparing you with Unspoken. What do you think of this? Yan Bingqing faced the camera with undisguised arrogance and contempt. She retorted, "You're asking me what I think, and I'm asking you what you think. What's there to compare?" The reporter said, "I think this comparison is very impolite." Chapter 682. Unspoken's face turned cold. She picked up the remote control and turned off the TV. How annoying. Forget it. At least, out of sight, out of mind. She walked to the kitchen. Just as she walked in, she saw the pot on the gas stove heating up. Yu was holding a kitchen knife, and after a series of clanging sounds, he deftly cut the scallions into small pieces and threw them into the pot together with the garlic cloves. He then skillfully stir-fried them. Unspoken was dumbfounded by the sight. Every time she saw Yu's superb knife skills, she would be shocked. After a while, a fragrant aroma wafted out. Unspoken smelled it intoxicatedly, and her tightly knitted brows relaxed a little. With the children at home, everything was fine. Her greatest fortune was giving birth to Yu and Xiaoyi Chen, these two babies. Yu, especially, was the little god of warmth. No matter what upset her outside, when she saw Yu's bright smile at home, all her unhappiness and annoyance would quickly dissipate. Her little god of warmth seemed to have mastered some magical magic. He always had the ability to disperse her negative emotions. How nice. This was probably the so-called happiness. Unspoken did not know how other children of this age were like, but she felt that Yu was only 7 years old. Was he too precocious? Unspoken was deep in thought. Was she not a good mother? While she was deep in thought, Yun Tianyu had finished cooking a dish. When he turned around, he saw her standing at the door with a strange look on her face. He could not help but raise a brow. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Unspoken came back to her senses at once. "Ah, nothing. Did I disturb you?" The corner of his lips twitched. "No, it's just that the kitchen reeks of oil and fumes. Mommy should go out, or else you'll become a haggard old woman." Unspoken was amused by him. "What haggard old woman? Aren't you afraid that you'll be affected by the smoke?" Yun Tianyu smiled elegantly without saying a word, but his eyes seemed to say, "Who asked me to be so unlucky to have a mommy who is not good at housework?" Unspoken was shocked by his gaze. Hey, hey. I protest. You're obviously mocking mommy with that look in your eyes. But Yu doesn't dislike mommy for that. As he spoke, he picked up the vegetables at the side and poured some water to wash them carefully. "Didn't Yu say this before? Mommy is in charge of being beautiful and Yu is in charge of raising the family." When Unspoken heard this, she didn't know why. Even though it was clearly a joke, she vaguely felt guilty towards Yu. Hence, she walked behind Yu and hugged his soft body. "Yu, actually, mommy also thinks that I'm not good enough." Yu was startled and immediately retorted, "Who said that? Who said bad things about mommy?" "It must be Wuxia. That man must have accused mommy of being irresponsible in front of mommy." At this moment, a certain man in the Mu Group's CEO's office sneezed elegantly. He was shot in the crossfire. Unspoken shook her head. You don't have to cook anymore. Let mommy do it. No. Yu rejected her outright. Huh? Why? Unspoken was baffled. Mommy's cooking is actually very delicious. It's just that sometimes, mommy's cooking will be a little substandard. It's just that sometimes. She earnestly defended herself. Yu, however, said, Yu thinks that it's a very blissful thing to let mommy eat Yu's cooking. Huh? Unspoken was stunned. Chapter 683. As he spoke, he turned around and hugged her waist with a gentle smile. To capture mommy's heart, you have to start from her stomach. That way, mommy will rely on Yu. She can't leave Yu. In his world, more often than not, he would experience the intrigue of others, the darkness of the world, and even the bloodshed of the world, much earlier than other children. His heart seemed to be divided into two extremes. On one side, he was scheming, dark, and had the world in his hands. On the other side, he was naive, kind, and even pure. However, this side of him was only for Unspoken. It could be said that in his heart, his mommy was the last piece of pure land. He also tried his best to protect her and not let her be tainted by any trace of darkness in this world. He did his best to protect this piece of pure land. In front of Unspoken, he always maintained the most innocent and pure side of a child. He wanted his mommy to rely on him and not leave him. This way, his mommy would be with him forever. Unspoken could not help laughing. Yu baby, even if the food you cook isn't good, mommy won't leave Yu. But there are clearly many people fighting with Yu for mommy. Yu complained unhappily. Xiao Yichen was one of them. Mu Yaja was one of them, too. Even Gu Xingzi had thoughts about his mommy. He felt uneasy. On one hand, he rationally believed that there should be someone by his mommy's side to accompany her for the rest of her life. On the other hand, he naively thought that it was enough for his mommy to have him. He could give his mommy whatever she wanted. Was this not enough? It was extremely contradictory. He could not learn to let go freely and watch his mommy fall into someone else's arms. Wasn't this kind of thinking morbid? Yu was worried. Sometimes, he felt that his possessiveness was too strong. He knew that this kind of thinking was irrational and unrealistic, but he could not control himself. He was a little conflicted. Mommy was his family. He could give her love, but he could not give her the love of a lover. He shouldn't be so selfish. This was undoubtedly kidnapping. Yun Tianyu turned around, picked up the knife again, and slowly sliced the meat. But his mind was still stubbornly mulling over this question. His mind was in a mess, muddle-headed. His thoughts were in a mess, and he didn't pay attention to the movements of his hands. In a moment of carelessness, he accidentally cut his finger. Yu was still immersed in his thoughts and did not notice the sharp pain coming from his fingertips. When he came back to his senses, he lowered his head and saw that the chopping board was already dyed red. Sensing the sharp pain coming from his hand, he looked at his fingertips in a daze. Blood was already flowing out. Yun Tianyo's lips parted, but he remained silent. He didn't feel much pain. Startled, Unspoken hurriedly grabbed his hand to take a closer look. Fortunately, the wound was not deep and was only a shallow cut. She cleaned the wound for him, took out a bandage, and bandaged it for him. Why were you so careless? Unspoken asked with a frown. Yu was startled and shook his head. He was distracted and thinking about something just now, so he did not pay attention. Go sit on the sofa first. Leave the rest to mommy. Unspoken said as she carried Yu to the sofa. Yu pursed his lips and nodded obediently. Chapter 684. After serving the dishes, Yu sat at the dining table and looked at the sumptuous spread on the table with a blissful smile. Yun Shishir was wearing the same teddy bear apron as Yun Tianyou's. This was personally chosen by Yu. He liked this design very much. Just as Yun Shishir sat down at the table, the doorbell rang. The mother-son pair looked at each other strangely. Who could it be? Father? A few days ago, he went back to his hometown for a funeral and said that he would only be back half a month later. Could he be back early now? Yun Shishir got up and walked to the door. Just as she opened it, a cute little head poked in. Xiao Yichen poked his head in first, as if to inquire about the situation. When he looked up, he bumped into Yun Shishir, who was standing at the door in surprise. He opened his mouth and wanted to call out, "Mommy," but he had always been a dull and shy person. He didn't know how to play tricks or act cute, so he couldn't force a word out of his mouth even after a long time. Xiao Yichen could not help feeling a little embarrassed. He had clearly prepared himself mentally. Even if he did not utter a single syllable, from the way his lips moved, it was clear that he was calling out "Mommy." Yun Shishir saw it. She could not help laughing. This child was quite shy. The little lad's sudden visit surprised her, but more than that, she was delighted. "Why are you here?" Yun Tianyu heard the commotion and could not help turning his head to take a look. When he saw that it was Xiao Yichen, the satisfied smile on his face faded a little. Why was it him? Mu Yichen. Why was he here? Mu Yichen walked in obediently, and Mu Yaja followed closely behind. A certain man said righteously, "I wanted to bring Xiao Yichen to visit the set, but I received news that filming ended early today." Subtext, "That's why I brought the child here to freeload." Yu gritted her teeth in anger. This father and son pair were blatantly freeloading. Shameless. She looked at Mu Yaja's relaxed expression. Had the Mu Group's network been fixed? It seemed that he had been too lenient last time. In just a few days, it had been repaired. Next time, he would not be so lenient. At the thought of Mu Yaja's black-bellied expression when he threatened him previously, Yun Tianyu bit down hard on his chopsticks in extreme displeasure. Mu Yaja glanced at Yun Tianyu the moment he stepped through the door. As if to provoke him, he raised a brow and said coldly, "One day." His words were filled with provocation. Yun Shishir and Mu Yichen were both confused. Obviously, they didn't know what he meant by that. Yun Tianyu understood, though. One day, it was repaired in just one day. This was a provocation. Sure. Was this man issuing him a challenge? If that was the case, he would destroy the Mu Group's network later and see what he could do about it. Mu Yaja seemed to have seen through his thoughts. With a devilish smile, his eyes taunted him, "Try it." The father and son stared at each other in the air. Instantly, sparks flew and smoke filled the air. Both men's auras were unbelievably strong. That terrifying aura instantly spread to every corner of the living room. Even Yun Shishir could feel the silent confrontation between the father and son, which was filled with smoke. It was too scary. Chapter 685. She said that she wanted to see Xiao Yichen and make up for Xiao Yichen's childhood where he lacked motherly love. Mu Yaja then brought the little guy over. Xiao Yichen's arrival was unexpected and, at the same time, elated. Yu, on the other hand, was unhappy. Even after exchanging pleasantries, Yu's gaze on Xiao Yichen remained apathetic. Yun Shishir broke out in a cold sweat. "Xiao Yichen, are you hungry? Do you want to eat first?" Xiao Yichen shyly pursed his lips and nodded. Yun Shishir then carried Xiao Yichen to the dining table. Alas, the moment her hands picked up little Yichen, something happened. Yun Tianyou's gaze instantly shifted to Xiao Yichen. Stare, like a tiger eyeing its prey. Even though Xiao Yichen did not see Yun Tianyou's frosty gaze, he could still feel the immense pressure. It was like a sharp stab in his back. It was as if countless needles were pricking his body. Xiao Yichen shuddered all of a sudden. Shishir was a little helpless and could not help casting an innocent look at Yun Tianyu. Seeing his mother pleading with him with her eyes, Yu restrained himself a little. However, he still laid out a condition. "Mommy, sit beside Yu." He patted the seat beside him. Shishir immediately sat beside him. She felt helpless. She knew that her Yu was jealous. Boo-hoo. In a way, he had inherited his father's ruthlessness and overbearingness when jealous. There was no doubt that he was exactly the same. One look and one could tell that he was his biological son. Shishir clapped her hands. "All right, let's eat." Then, there was an awkward silence. The dining table had become a chaotic battlefield between the father and son. The gazes of the three men constantly crossed over the dining table. The atmosphere suddenly plummeted and turned into an ice cellar. It would not be an exaggeration to describe it as the glint of swords and the smell of gunpowder. Her smile froze at the corner of her mouth. Shishir's smile turned cold as she watched the father and son cross gazes. She broke out in a cold sweat. Did they have to be like this? They were clearly father and son, they were father and son. Why were their eyes turning red the moment they met like enemies? Shishir turned to look at the other's eyes and laughed helplessly. Yu. "Let's eat," she said, Yu. "Let's eat, Mommy." Yu pointed at Wuxia and complained, "This uncle is glaring at me fiercely. Use you, of you. Use. He only knew how to complain. Shishir was naturally on Yu's side. She raised her head and gave Wuxia a warning look. "Wuxia, that's enough. Eat properly." Wuxia did not say a word and merely raised a brow. He was really wronged. This brat was clearly abusing his power to bully others. Yun Tianyu suddenly acted coquettishly at the side. "Mommy, feed Yu." Shishir nodded and took his mini rice bowl. Mu Yichen also acted coquettishly at the side. "I want to feed, too." "Me, too." Wuxia also joined in. Shishir rolled her eyes helplessly. "Hey, that's enough. Do you think I have 3 heads and 6 arms?" Yun Tianyu said angrily, "Mommy, don't bother about them." Mu Yichen only kept blinking innocently and pitifully at Shishir. Every pitiful look was undoubtedly a blow to her heart. Shishir could not help feeling sorry for him. Wuxia said, "Xiao Yichen, Mommy won't feed you. Daddy will feed you." Xiao Yichen pitifully cried, "Wu. I don't want Daddy to feed me." Chapter 686. Mommy, the atmosphere froze for a moment. Everyone was taken aback. Xiao Yichen realized that he had inadvertently called out to her. He pursed his lips shyly and innocently knitted his brows. Yun Tianyu stared at Xiao Yichen in a daze. His call was undoubtedly like a heart-piercing arrow that made Shishir lose her ability to resist. There was no doubt that she was a mother. Even if her heart was as hard as a rock, she would still be defeated when her child called out to her softly. Shishir smiled and said gently, "Okay. Mommy, feed him." Hence, she got up, walked over to Xiao Yichen's seat, and sat down. Yu could only watch helplessly as Shishir picked up a spoon and patiently fed Xiao Yichen. Xiao Yichen took a bite and widened his eyes in surprise. He was obviously stunned by the deliciousness and exclaimed, "Wow! It's so delicious." Shishir proudly said, "Tonight's dinner was all prepared by Yu." As soon as she said that, Wuxia, who had just taken a bite of the glutinous rice and roasted chicken, froze again. Were these dishes Tianyu's handiwork? It was simply unbelievable. Disregarding the exquisite appearance, just the taste alone was definitely comparable to that of a star-rated chef. It was even better than that. It was no wonder that Xianxia had boasted to him that Yun Tianyo's culinary skills were the best. Now, it seemed that her praise was not exaggerated. His culinary skills were indeed excellent. Still, Wuxia looked up suspiciously at Yun Tianyo's small hand holding the chopsticks. It was pink, tender, and chubby. It was hard to imagine what kind of miracle this hand had created. How did he master such culinary skills? He was only 7 years old, how could he hold a kitchen knife? The latter looked at him lightly and snorted disdainfully, as if to say, consider yourself lucky today. Other than Xianxia, he had never cooked for anyone else. If Xianxia was not at home, even if it was Yun Yecheng, he would not personally cook. Xiao Yichen was still immersed in the deliciousness of the dishes, unable to extricate himself. Happiness. He was so happy that he was about to cry. Compared to the delicacies cooked by Yun Tianyu, the daily recipes in the Mu residence were already boring to him. What Yun Tianyu did was different, though. He changed his style. He never followed the prescribed order. Therefore, as long as he was the one cooking, day after day, year after year, he would never get tired of it. Xiao Yichen felt that he was done for. It seemed that his younger brother's cooking was very suitable for him. Now that she had fallen in love with this flavor, she was afraid that whatever she ate would be tasteless when she returned to the Mu residence, right? Xiao Yichen's appetite was greatly stimulated. Xianxia couldn't help but be surprised. This child's appetite was not bad. He had already finished 2 bowls of rice. She was happy for a moment. She actually forgot about Yun Tianyu, who had not eaten a single grain of rice. Yu sorrowfully felt that he had really fallen out of favor. His mommy only cared about Xiao Yichen and did not care about him. He deliberately did not eat a single mouthful of rice, hoping that his mommy would notice his unhappiness and coax him. He had been staring at her for a long time, but his mommy acted as if she did not see him and continued to play with Xiao Yichen. Yun Tianyo's eyes were filled with grievance and resentment. They were about to burst out of his eyes. This father-son pair was simply too despicable. They must be doing it on purpose to monopolize mommy. Chapter 687. He hated them the most. Snatching his mommy. Yu meekly called out, "Mommy." Out of the corner of his eye, he saw a figure move. Yu looked up and saw Wuxia sitting beside him with his palm gently covering his adorable little head. "Are you angry?" Yu turned his face away in a fit of pique and ignored him. Wuxia, however, pinched his chin and forced him to look at him. "Daddy is talking to you, it's impolite to ignore Daddy." Yun Tianyu snorted. "Did I admit that you're my daddy? Don't flatter yourself." He was proud and awkward deep down, his stubbornness was quite similar to his mommy's. "You're shy." "No, I'm not." Yu. Wuxia thought that this lad was really adorable when he was being awkward. "Next time, cook for Daddy too, okay?" "No, I'll only cook for mommy." "Don't even think about it." Yun Tianyu stuck out his tongue provocatively at him. "Dream on." Wuxia lowered his eyes to look at him. Suddenly, he used a pair of chopsticks to gently pinch the boy's little pink tongue. "Yu, is this man a pervert? Is it fun to tease me like this?" "Interesting." Wuxia seemed to have seen through his thoughts as he commented nonchalantly. "Wuxia, are you a pervert? It's not cute for a child to talk like this. Besides, if I'm a pervert, what are you, then?" If he said that he was a pervert, then he was his son. Was he not a little pervert, too? In fact, he even suspected that this son of his had a genetic mutation. If not, how could he be so abnormal? Unexpectedly, Yun Tianyu casually replied, "I'm a genius." "Unlike you, I'm a genius." "You're an old pervert, the most perverted kind." Wuxia retorted, "You're a genius. Don't you have my genes to thank?" "Thank you. If it weren't for your genes, I might have been better. You're so cute. Shouldn't you thank me? Wuxia, open your eyes and look carefully. I obviously inherited more of my mother's beauty. I despise you. You're so smart because you inherited my genes. Then why don't you explain why Mui Chen is so stupid? Mui Chen, who had been eating quietly at the side, was a little hurt. He felt as if he had been shot while lying down. Wuxia righteously defended his Dabao. How is he stupid? If you ask him to calculate 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6, he can't wait to count his toes. I'm smart because my mommy taught me well, unlike Mui Chen, whose IQ is trampled under his feet every day. Mui Chen's pinkish face scrunched up sadly, feeling hurt. The father and son bickered with each other. Wuxia bitterly realized that he thought he had a sharp tongue, but when compared to Yun Tianyu in this aspect, he was nothing. He could only be crushed by Yun Tianyu. There was an old saying, the older the ginger, the spicier it is. Alas, Wuxia was about to cry from the spiciness of Yun Tianyu's tender ginger tongue. Yun Tianyu's sharp-tongued ability was to the max. Wuxia even suspected that the lad's sharp-tongued talent was maxed out when he was just born. Every word he said was mercilessly rebutted by Yun Tianyu. He was invincible. Yun Shishir's lips twitched as she helplessly said, "Stop fooling around." Chapter 688. Yun Tianyu complained bitterly, "Mommy, Yu wants a hug." Yun Shishir's eyes flickered. Just as she was about to walk toward Yu, Xiao Yichen pursed his lips and pretended to cry. "Mommy, Xiao Yichen wants a hug, too." "Mommy, I want a hug." Yu pouted. "Mommy, I want a kiss." Xiao Yichen sobbed. Yun Shishir was a little overwhelmed by this scene. She could not split herself. The two little lads were calling for her. She knew in her heart that Yu was a little resistant to Wuxia and Xiao Yichen. It was not his fault though. It was not that Yu was too willful. It was just that, all along, there were only her and Yu in this family. Hence, the children naturally regarded Wuxia and Xiao Yichen as intruders. Their hearts were full of repulsion and resistance. This was not what she had hoped for. She wanted the two brothers to get along well. 6 years was neither long nor short, but there was an insurmountable gap between the two children. Mui Chen liked this younger brother of his a lot. Yu, however, had sealed off his heart and refused to let anyone in. Yun Shishir pursed her lips. She had no experience in dealing with this. To her, the two little guys were her favorite. She would protect and dote on both of them. She did not want to be in such a distant situation. Yu blinked his eyes. He had clearly acted coquettishly. If it were in the past, his mommy would definitely hug him in her arms and gently coax him. Now, however, she did not do anything. It was as if she was worried about Xiao Yichen. He could not help feeling a little disappointed. The little lad's pink face looked slightly aggrieved. Everything in front of him gradually turned gray, and his eyes quickly filled with tears. He had always thought that he was the most important and irreplaceable person in his mommy's heart. Just like how no one could replace his mommy in his heart. Mommy was the most important. However, why did it seem that he was not the most important person in his mommy's heart? "Mommy, do you not love Yu anymore?" Yu pursed his lips aggrievedly as tears streamed down his face. "Mommy is the most important person in Yu's heart, but Mommy doesn't love Yu anymore." Little Munchkin's pink lips were tightly pursed. Even though he was pretending to be stubborn, his little face was still wet with tears. She hurriedly explained, "No. Mommy still loves Yu. It's just." Her delicate brows furrowed slightly as her gaze fell on little Yichen, who was equally at a loss. The latter felt so wrong that his eyes turned red. He loved his younger brother very much, too. He could not bear for him to be wronged. He did not mean to compete with his younger brother earlier. He just thought that it was a joke and that he was just teasing him. On the one hand, he wanted to get closer to Yunshushi. His daddy told him that this woman was his dearest mommy. And this child was his biological younger brother. After being separated for 6 years, they finally reunited, but this younger brother of his seemed to have built a tall wall and did not let them get close to each other. He did not know how to open the door to Yu Yu's heart. What should he do? Xiao Yichen walked to Yu Yu's side aggrievedly. His small hand gently pinched the corner of his shirt and tugged at it, trying to get his attention. Yun Tianyu took a step back and distanced himself from him. Chapter 689. He opened his mouth, but his voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzzing. He was easily embarrassed, and it could even be said that he was a child who never took the initiative. He took the initiative to approach him and talk to him, but Yu Yu was a little cold and avoided his intimacy. Xiao Yichen felt wronged. Yichen, I like you. The last 3 words were barely audible. I like you. Xiao Yichen wanted to confess loudly. He didn't want his brother to be so distant from him. He wouldn't fight with his brother for mommy. He would be like mommy and protect his brother well and dote on him. Wasn't that good? We are. Xiao Yichen was so anxious that his face turned red. He wanted to say that sentence urgently, but because of his anxiety, he was a little incoherent. In his heart, he kept repeating the same sentence. We are a family. We are a family. I am your older brother, and you are my younger brother. We are a family. I will dote on you like mommy, protect you, and not let anyone bully you. However, Yu Yu stood at the side from the beginning to the end. He looked down and turned his face to the side, not looking at them. Yunshushi couldn't stand it anymore. She walked over and squatted beside him. Seeing that he was biting his lip in a fit of pique, she helplessly comforted him. Yu Yu, don't throw a tantrum. I'm not. Yu Yu looked at her with reddened eyes. His gaze was affectionate and a little helpless. Mommy, I don't want daddy or brother. I only want you. I don't want them. Behind him, Xiao Yichen looked as if he had been struck by lightning. He was stunned and his body was extremely cold. Mu Yaja's expression was calm. Yu Yu's reaction was as he had expected. This child's possessiveness towards Yunshushi was unusually strong. Yu Yu was a stubborn child. No one could change the fact that he had decided on. Yunshushi didn't expect this child to be so stubborn. She was angry and amused at the same time. Yu Yu, be good. Don't mess around. I'm not messing around. Yu Yu hugged her tightly and said helplessly, I don't like them. I tried to accept them, but Yu Yu couldn't do it. Yu Yu only wanted mommy. Mommy was enough. Was it not enough for mommy to have Yu Yu? Yu Yu can protect mommy, raise mommy, and love mommy. Yu Yu, Yunshushi held her forehead and let out a long sigh. Her heart ached a little. She had never seen Yu Yu so helpless before. His eyes were filled with fear as if he was about to lose her. Despair. But he wouldn't lose her. Could it be that in this family, there would be another daddy, another older brother to accompany him and dote on him? Her love for him would not decrease either. Wasn't that good? Yu Yu, he's your older brother. He'll dote on you and love you just like mommy does. Xiao Yichen immediately nodded vigorously. Then, he looked at his face with a pair of eager and hopeful eyes. Even if he nodded, Xiao Yichen wouldn't be able to control himself and would hug him tightly in joy. Yu Yu followed Yunshushi's voice and turned to look at Xiao Yichen, who was standing behind her. This child had the same appearance and facial features as him. There were very few twins who looked like them. Their facial features were so similar that it was as if they were cast from the same mold. If the two little lads stood together, regardless of height, it was almost impossible to tell them apart. But in the end, he could only shake his head in disappointment and close his eyes. It was as if he was escaping. Chapter 690. Mommy is fierce. Yu stared at her innocently with his big, clear eyes as though he was silently accusing her. Yu is disobedient. Yunshishir frowned and looked at him angrily. Yu had never seen Yunshishir angry. She had always been as gentle as water and had never been angry with him. However, she actually said that he was disobedient because of them. How was he disobedient? Yu pursed his lips and clenched his fists tightly. He released them and clenched them again. He said sadly, "Mommy is stupid. Yu, don't bother with Mommy." With that, the little guy ran back to the bedroom in a fit of pique. Bang! He slammed the door shut. In the living room, the three of them looked at each other and smiled helplessly. Xiao Yichen said sadly, "Mommy, did I make little brother angry?" In the bedroom, Yu buried himself in the blanket and covered himself with it in a fit of pique. His small body curled up into a ball under the blanket and hugged himself tightly like a helpless baby. His eyes had long dried up and there were no more tears. However, his heart felt as though it had been viciously ripped open by a sharp object and was bleeding profusely. The door was slowly opened, and the sound of light footsteps came to the bedside. Was it Mommy? Did Mommy come to coax him because she was afraid that he would be angry and sad? Yu carefully lifted a corner of the blanket and saw Xiao Yichen's bright and sunny smile. It was as though a huge hole had opened up in the darkness. The sunlight shone through the hole and it was warm. Yu was stunned and his eyes widened. Yu. Xiao Yichen called his name carefully. His face was so gentle that it was almost dripping with water. His heart skipped a beat. The grievance in Yu's eyes faded a little. What? Yu, I. Xiao Yichen gritted his teeth and said somewhat awkwardly, "I like you, Yu. I know." Yu was a little arrogant. He snorted as if he was embarrassed and quickly covered his face with the blanket again. At this moment, Yu's handsome little face was slightly hot because of Xiao Yichen's shy confession. Xiao Yichen grabbed a corner of the blanket and smiled. "It's okay if you don't like me. I'll protect you. I know you're afraid that I'll steal your mommy from you, right?" Little Munchkin remained silent under the blanket. Xiao Yichen blinked and smiled. "Don't worry, I won't steal your mommy. Because I'm the older brother. I'll let you have your way. I don't want you to let me down." Little Munchkin's muffled voice came from under the blanket. "Mommy was originally mine, humph." "I know." Seeing that he was willing to talk to him, Xiao Yichen was a little happy. When he first met Yun Tianyu, he had a strange feeling. This child was clearly covered in thorns like a small hedgehog, but he still felt a sense of closeness toward him. He liked him. From the first time he saw him, he liked this younger brother. He was smart, cute, and sometimes had a sharp tongue. He even deliberately teased him with difficult math questions. Still, he was so smart and cute. "Brother, don't be angry. It's my fault today. I wanted to play with you and made you sad. I won't do it again," he sincerely explained. Yu's face flashed with surprise. He was a little surprised. Chapter 691. Separated by the blanket, Xiao Yichen opened his arms and hugged him gently and carefully. Under the blanket, Yu felt his brother's closeness and his face flushed red. Xiao Yichen's hug made him so nervous that he didn't know where to put his hands. Then, there was a long, suffocating silence. After some time, a box-like object was stuffed in a corner of the blanket. He didn't know what it was, but he heard Xiao Yichen say in a cheerful voice, "Hey! This is your brother's gift to you." He had specially prepared this gift for him before he came. It was his gift to his brother. Xiao Yichen's footsteps could be heard from outside the blanket. Then, there was the sound of the door closing softly. Yu poked his head out of the blanket and took out the object that Xiao Yichen had stuffed into the blanket. Under the light, he saw an exquisitely wrapped gift. Was it a gift? This fellow was quite attentive. He didn't seem as annoying as he thought. Yu Yu's eyes curved slightly, and a hint of a smile appeared at the corners of his lips. He didn't even realize that when he held the gift in his hands, the corners of his lips were curled up in satisfaction. After dinner, Xiao Yichen sat in the front passenger seat in the car. He seemed to be in a good mood, and the corners of his lips were always curled up. Mu Yaja glanced at him from the corner of his eye and couldn't help but ask, "What gift did you give your brother?" "It's a secret. I'm not going to tell Daddy." Xiao Yichen deliberately made a face mysteriously and then said shyly, "My brother will definitely like my gift." Mu Yaja teased, "But your brother doesn't seem to like you." "My brother will definitely like me." Xiao Yichen leaned against the window and looked at the bright moon in the sky as he vowed solemnly. At night, before the lights were turned off, Unspoken walked into the room and saw that Yu Yu was still sitting on the bed, playing with the exquisite gift in his hands. The gift was still beautifully wrapped. Although he didn't want to admit it in his heart, he was actually a little reluctant to open the gift. Unspoken walked to the bedside. Yu Yu immediately came back to her senses. She hid the gift under the pillow and looked at him warily. "Is this a gift from my brother?" Unspoken asked. Yu Yu licked her lips and said awkwardly, "I don't really like it. I just thought it would be fun. Mommy is a little curious about what he gave you." Unspoken deliberately probed him. "Why don't we open it and see?" "No." Yu Yu stared at him warily. "The packaging is quite interesting." What a stubborn little fellow. Actually, he just couldn't bear to tear it apart. Unspoken pursed her lips and smiled, but she didn't expose him. This child was really a little arrogant. She could tell that he actually liked this gift very much. Nervousness, anticipation, and curiosity were all written on his face. However, he was a little awkward and wasn't good at expressing himself. Unspoken caressed his snowy face and pinched his chubby cheeks. She pursed her lips and said, "Mommy loves Yu Yu. Yu Yu is irreplaceable in Mommy's heart." Yu Yu hugged Unspoken and planted a sweet kiss on her face. "Yu Yu loves Mommy too. Mommy is unique in Yu Yu's heart. Sleep early." Unspoken stroked his hair and kissed his forehead. "We still have to wake up early tomorrow." When they left the bedroom, the smile on Unspoken's face faded. This child was obviously still a little conflicted. Chapter 692. The filming of the movie progressed step by step. There were a few scenes involving Yin Dongyu and Yin Xiachuan after they had grown up. The production crew specially rushed to Huanyu Tower to film. It was not that Lin Fengtian was trying to save money, but in the original novel, after Yin Dongyu graduated, he joined the media company to work. In all aspects, the setting of Huanyu Tower was very suitable for the plot of the original novel. This plot described how, after graduating from high school, Yin Dongyu's parents realized that the relationship between Dongyu and Xiachuan had gone beyond the scope of a sibling relationship. While feeling uneasy, they also tried to find a way to cut off this unnecessary relationship. Hence, after Yin Xiachuan graduated from high school, she was sent overseas to study. No matter how reluctant Yin Xiachuan was, she could not go against her parents' orders. Furthermore, in order to cut off this unnecessary relationship, Yin Dongyu agreed to the matter and personally sent her on the plane. When he returned to the country, Yin Dongyu joined the media company and became the artistic director of the media company. Yin Xiachuan, on the other hand, returned to the country and successfully joined the company. This scene was arranged to be filmed at Huanyu Tower. Previously, during the filming of the movie, many reporters came to visit the set and interview the crew of The Green Apple. This caused Lin Fengtian to be extremely dissatisfied with him. He did not like reporters coming to visit the set. Before the movie was released, he wanted to create a sense of mystery about the movie. He did not want the filming process to be widely exposed. Hence, he mercilessly dismissed the reporters. The reporters complained a lot about this, but there was nothing they could do about Lin Fengtian. Actually, they had an ulterior motive for coming to visit the set. Instead, they were using the excuse of visiting the set to dig up information about the two main leads, Gu Xingzi and Yun Shishir. When Yun Shishir walked out of the changing room, she happened to see Gu Xingzi passing by the door. However, even though they bumped into each other, Gu Xingzi only greeted her briefly before brushing past her. He was cold and distant, deliberately keeping a distance from her. Ever since that day in the music room, even though the production team had been reorganized and the main cast had returned, Gu Xingzi was no longer as close to her as before. It could be said that he was extremely indifferent. Sometimes, there was no communication at all. She smiled. In her heart, she was more or less disappointed, but she could understand Gu Xingzi's attitude towards her. This disappointment was not because of anything else, but because she seemed to have lost another friend. She had always regarded Gu Xingzi as a friend, but Gu Xingzi did not think so. He liked her. It was unknown when Gu Xingzi started to have such an awareness. He liked Yun Shishir and wanted to protect her from any harm. But after that day, he suddenly realized that compared to Wuxia, he didn't seem to have the ability to take her back. If he was the head of the Gu clan, perhaps he would have the right to do so. But now, in terms of power, he couldn't even withstand a single blow from Wuxia. What was there to fight about? There was no way he could win against Wuxia. This made him feel a little embarrassed. What made him even more disappointed was that Yun Shishir had always only treated him as a friend. It was really a very pure way of thinking. He couldn't see any complicated feelings in her eyes. There was only the kind of feelings she had for friends. Even so, if they weren't close, they wouldn't fall for each other. If they didn't fall for each other, they wouldn't get hurt. Chapter 693. In the dressing room, Yun Shishir sat in front of the dressing table. She was helping her tidy up her makeup bag as she looked at Yun Shishir's reflection in the mirror. She smiled and said, "Shishir, I realize that your facial features are very sculptural. No matter what style of makeup you wear, I can't see any disharmony on your face." Yun Shishir broke into laughter as she snapped out of her thoughts and glanced at her. "Mushi, is your hand better now?" She nodded repeatedly. "Yes, it's better now. The blisters have subsided. After applying the medicine you gave me for a few days, it's more or less healed now. Don't force yourself. If you still feel pain, you must tell me." She said helplessly, Shishir, I'm not that pretentious. It's just a small injury, it's all healed now." However, even though she said this, she was still very touched. A few days ago, Yun Shishir gave her a few days off. She was resting at home these few days, worried that she might be bullied by others in the production team. Worried, she ended her sick leave early and rushed to the production team. After beating around the bush, she found out that Yan Bingqing did not come to the production team these few days. Only then did she feel slightly relieved. The reason why she did not come to the production team was probably because she had to rush to the set. Before The Green Apple, Yan Bingqing had accepted another movie contract. Many big-name actors would choose to accept 2 movies at the same time and then mediate between them before rushing to the production team. Lin Fengtian hated this method. She did not even have the basic qualities of an actor. He almost fired Yan Bingqing, but the backing behind her was too strong. This role was originally given to the production team out of nowhere, so he had no choice but to swallow his anger. Yan Bingqing was not around a few days ago, so all her scenes were arranged for this day. A few scenes in university were cut by the director in a fit of anger. Logically speaking, Yan Bingqing should return to the production team today. At the thought of having to work with such a person with no character, Mushi felt unwell all over. However, this was how it was in this industry. Even if you don't like it, you still have to endure it. The makeup artist carefully applied makeup for Yun Shishir, while Yun Shishir sat quietly with her eyes closed. Her makeup artist was still Ding Ning. At first, when Yun Shishir joined the cast, the crew members did not think much of her. No matter what happened, they prioritized the big shots first. Gu Xingzi started first, followed by Yan Bingqing, Yang Mi, Li Jiuxian. They were arranged according to the ranking of each celebrity. People were divided into different classes, flattering the strong and stepping on the weak. This was perfectly reflected in this film crew. There were several times when Yun Shishir had to do it herself because there was not enough manpower and she had no time to wait for Ding Ning to do the makeup. Fortunately, she had done some makeup homework before she joined the crew. She had also learned a lot of techniques from the training classes, so it was not a problem for her to deal with an emergency. In addition, she had a good foundation, so it was not a big deal. However, as time went by, Yun Shishir did not say anything, while Mu Shi had a lot of complaints. She complained more than once. Shishir, aren't they just bullying you because you have the lowest status? It's fine if it happens once or twice, but it's too much for you to be involved in this time and time again. No matter what, you're the female lead personally chosen by director Lin. I think you'll definitely become a hit. They don't have any foresight at all. Yun Shishir, however, remained silent. Chapter 694. Yun Shishir casually replied, "What do you mean by exclusive use? There's no need for that at all. It's too troublesome." "Why not?" Mu Shi said angrily, "Every time it's your turn to put on makeup, you're clearly the first to appear, yet you have to be the last to put on makeup? Anyway, I'm feeling sorry for you." Yun Shishir, however, said, "Mumu, if I were to hire an exclusive stylist, what would others think? They'll think that a newbie like me is acting like a big shot and will have thoughts about me." She did not want to cause unnecessary trouble. Mu Shi was stunned, but she heard her nonchalant reply, "Although I don't care what others think, I'm afraid of trouble. That's why I don't cause trouble. Besides, it's not a big deal." Yun Shishir had been in the production team for some time. With the exposure of the behind-the-scenes footage of her filming on the official Weibo of The Green Apple, she had accumulated a lot of fans. Now, the number of fans on Weibo had exceeded the 5 million mark. Although these 5 million fans were not worth mentioning to some A-list big shots, it was still not a big deal. However, after so many years in the entertainment industry, it was rare for a newbie to gain such an objective amount of exposure right after their debut. Such results could be said to be surprising. It also confirmed Lin Fengtian's words back then. This Yun Shishir, as long as she could seize an opportunity, would shoot to fame. Now, however, Yun Shishir was famous. Her popularity had skyrocketed. In the production team, all the staff's attitude toward her had completely changed. No one dared to slight her anymore. At least, in terms of details, Yun Shishir felt that she was slowly being respected in the production team. Ding Ning also took notice of her. "Shishir, you're so beautiful and photogenic." Ding Ning finished applying her eyeshadow and looked at Yun Shishir's mesmerizing eyes in the mirror. She could not help but click her tongue in praise. Yun Shishir could not help but laugh. "That's because you're good at it. You flatter me, you flatter me." Ding Ning smiled and put the eyeshadow brush into the Evolution makeup bag. He took out a box of lip gloss and mixed some colors on the palette. He said apologetically, "Shishir, you have a good temper. Putting on makeup for you is what makes my job so fascinating." From the first time he met Yun Shishir, Ding Ning had a good impression of her. He felt that she was modest, polite, and very gentle. He had never seen her make things difficult for any of the crew members and had always been very cooperative. Ding Ning was recognized as the top stylist in the circle. His skills were first class, so most of the people he came into contact with were first-tier big shots. She was used to serving famous celebrities like Yan Bingqing and Han Yuyan. Now that she was in front of Yun Shishir, it was like a cool breeze blowing on her face. Yan Bingqing was the kind of star who was stubborn. She would order the stylist to give her the style she thought she should use to appear on screen. Take the previous makeup photos for example. Logically speaking, Yan Bingqing's character should be a charming and beautiful rebellious high school student. However, Yan Bingqing insisted that Ding Ning give her a pure look. She also specified that she wanted the same makeup as Yun Shishir. She wanted nothing more than to compare herself with Yun Shishir. Ding Ning was a little hesitant. Pure makeup did not suit her character. He kindly reminded her but was humiliated by Yan Bingqing. Helplessly, he gave her a pure look. In the end, Yan Bingqing was scolded badly by Lin Fengtian when she went on screen for a trial photo. Chapter 695. In the end, Lin Fengtian almost kicked her out, and she almost lost her job. She was really wronged. Yun Shishir was different, though. Her facial features were too sculpted. Every makeup that Ding Ning put on her according to her character could bring out her beauty. It was unparalleled. Yun Shishir would not rush her, make things difficult for her, or humiliate her like Yan Bingqing did. Not only was she good-tempered, but she also knew how to respect others. She was really grateful. Before Yun Shishir became famous, the production crew did not take her seriously. They did not even put her in their eyes when she played a minor role in a movie. After she became famous, she was neither arrogant nor impatient. She did not throw her weight around. She still arrived at the set on time and obeyed the crew's arrangements. She was still as calm and elegant as before. She did not take to heart the minor roles who had offended her in the past. If it were a celebrity like Yan Bingqing, she would definitely get back at them, but she did not. She was really a special person. Gradually, everyone liked her from the bottom of their hearts. The three of them were chatting. This rare leisure time was suddenly interrupted by footsteps outside the door. The sound of high heels hitting the ground was crisp and powerful. Immediately after, the door was pushed open and Yan Bingqing walked into the dressing room coolly. She turned around. When she saw that it was her, the smile on her face froze. Seeing that Yan Bingqing had returned to the set, the smile on Ding Ning's face gradually turned cold. Yun Shishir, on the other hand, was the only one who remained unfazed. She did not even spare her a glance as she quietly stared at her reflection in the mirror, as if the actress's arrival had nothing to do with her. Yan Bingqing swept her gaze across everyone. Finally, her gaze landed on Mushi, who was trembling at the side. Ever since that incident, Mushi had some psychological trauma toward Yan Bingqing. She was afraid of this woman from the bottom of her heart. Hence, when she saw her, she could not help but shrink into a corner. Yun Shishir glanced at Yan Bingqing from the corner of her eye, only to see the latter looking as if she had seen a ghost. She smiled helplessly. Just as he was about to speak, he was interrupted by Yan Bingqing's cold voice. "Yo! What a coincidence! You guys are here too?" She lowered her head and subconsciously hid behind Yun Shishir without saying a word. Yun Shishir reached out and covered Mushi's hand on her shoulder. Yan Bingqing's bright red lips curled into a smile when she saw Mushi's cowering look. What a loyal dog. The relationship between master and servant is pretty good. She continued to tremble in silence. Yan Bingqing asked coldly, "Hey, is your hand better?" "Ding Ning, why did you stop?" Yun Shishir acted as if she had not heard Yan Bingqing's words. Seeing that Ding Ning was in a daze at the side, she reminded her. Ding Ning smiled and immediately made small talk. "I was distracted just now. I was thinking of what lip color to match for you. What do you think about peach pink? Do as you deem fit. I believe in your taste." Yun Shishir smiled slightly. Her indifference made it seem as if Yan Bingqing did not exist, as if she were air. Yan Bingqing's face instantly turned sullen. This Yun Shishir was really capable. Every word she said was not hurtful, but she had the ability to make her angry out of embarrassment. She said hatefully, "Yun Shishir, get out of here." This dressing room is mine, you have no share. She raised her head to look at her. She opened her mouth to defend her, but Unspoken suddenly pressed her hand down as if to stop her. Her voice, which had just emerged from her throat, stopped abruptly. Chapter 696. The three of them were eerily quiet and ignored Yan Bingqing. Get out. Yan Bingqing's voice was slightly shrill as she gave the order to chase her out again. Unspoken still did not move. In a fit of anger, she walked up to Unspoken and swept all the makeup products in front of her to the floor. Foundation and eyeshadow were scattered all over the floor in a mess. Ding Ning was taken aback and raised his head in confusion. These were all her makeup products. She could tell that Yan Bingqing hated Unspoken, but was there a need to implicate the innocent? Even though she was full of complaints, Ding Ning did not dare to voice them out. That was because she was Yan Bingqing. Her background was O Huang's boss, Yang Shoucheng. Who would dare to offend her? Only a newbie like Unspoken, who was like a newborn calf that was not afraid of a tiger. Unspoken raised her eyes slightly and cast a sidelong glance at her, as if questioning her childish behavior. What's wrong? I'm talking to you, but you're ignoring me. What's the meaning of this? Are you putting on airs with me? Yan Bingqing questioned her hysterically. Her cold and vicious eyes were as sharp and vicious as a cobra's. Oh, I didn't hear you. Unspoken gave a perfunctory explanation. Yan Bingqing was exceptionally furious. You clearly heard me. But I didn't hear you speak human language, did I? Unspoken's face was calm and unruffled. Her concise and comprehensive words were full of mockery. Even Ding Ning and Mu Shi, who were behind her, were taken aback. Although Unspoken sounded calm when she spoke, her words were filled with inviolable arrogance. How dare she speak to Yan Bingqing like this? Was she not afraid of offending Yan Bingqing? Or was she really a newborn calf who was not afraid of tigers? Did she not know Yan Bingqing's background? Mu Shi's heart pounded wildly. Just as expected. Yan Bingqing's face flushed red with anger at her sarcastic words. Even though her face was covered with thick makeup, it could not hide her redness. She glared fiercely at her and said angrily, Unspoken, what do you mean by that? What do you mean I didn't speak human language? Explain it to me clearly. Is this sentence very difficult to understand? A dog's mouth can't spit ivory, have you heard of that? Unspoken's lips curled into a mocking sneer. Indeed, you're uncultured. You. Yan Bingqing was exasperated. Suppressing the urge to give her a tight slap, she sneered, revealing her pearly whites. Unspoken, I didn't expect you to be so eloquent. I'm a magnanimous person, so I won't argue with you. Get out. Get out. Get out? Unspoken asked innocently and curiously, get out to where? This dressing room is mine. Get out and don't come in. You're an eyesore. Yan Bingqing warned her again. On what basis? Unspoken was a little amused. Had this Yan Bingqing's manners been eaten by a dog? Yan Bingqing spat out each word viciously, on the basis that I am Yan Bingqing. I heard that you had a fever these few days. I see that your fever has subsided, but is your brain muddled? Aren't you mistaken? Unspoken smiled. She then turned her eyes and finally looked her in the eye. This dressing room is shared. Don't tell me you want to monopolize it. Chapter 697. Unspoken pretended to be surprised. No way. Are you bullying a newbie? Yes, I am bullying you. What can you do to me? Yan Bingqing sneered. In her eyes, a newbie like Unspoken could not withstand a single blow other than her sharp tongue. Unspoken was neither shocked nor angry. Instead, she kindly reminded her with a smile, there are many reporters outside today. If news of Yan Bingqing dominating the dressing room and ostracizing newbies gets out, won't tomorrow's headlines be very interesting? Are you threatening me? Yan Bingqing narrowed her eyes dangerously when she heard this. No, it's clearly Senior Yan Bingqing who is making things difficult for me. Yun Shishir pointed at the surveillance camera high up in the corner. That place has been captured clearly. Yan Bingqing turned to look in the direction she was pointing. Indeed, there was a small surveillance camera there. She gritted her teeth in anger and turned her head to glare fiercely at her. She had no choice but to force herself to calm down. Yun Shishir, you win. Yun Shishir's lips curled into a smile, but her eyes were cold as she turned to look at the mirror again. Yan Bingqing felt that she had completely lost face in front of Mu Shi and Ding Ning. She did not forget to say harshly, Yun Shishir, I'm warning you, don't be too arrogant. Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because Director Lin is supporting you. Who do you think you are? You won't have a good ending for offending me. Yun Shishir ignored her threat and reminded her coldly, you talk too much. There's not much time left. Can't you just do your makeup? Ding Ning and Mu Shi were already petrified. This Yun Shishir is really something. Could it be that she has a strong background, too, so she is not afraid of Yan Bingqing's threats? Yan Bingqing was about to lose her temper when she saw her impatient look. Gu Xingzi's magnetic voice came from the door. Bingqing. Yan Bingqing was stunned. She immediately hid the evil expression on her face and turned around to put on a sweet smile. Seeing Gu Xingzi standing at the door and looking at her, she immediately went up to him, Xingzi, it's you? Yun Shishir was stunned and turned to look at him. However, she saw Gu Xingzi standing at the door and looking at Yan Bingqing indifferently. He did not even look at her. He looked at Yan Bingqing and asked, You're here. Are you feeling better these days? Yan Bingqing smiled shyly and was touched. Xingzi, thank you for your concern. I've been resting for a few days, and my fever has gone down. I'm feeling better now. Mu Shi could not help but click her tongue. This Yan Bingqing was always said to be a vase. She only had good looks and mediocre acting skills. Now, her acting skills were on the line. He clearly had a ferocious look on his face just now. She changed her expression the moment she turned around. How disgusting. Gu Xingzi chatted for a while and said, Okay, take care of yourself. The next few scenes are very important. Yan Bingqing smiled and nodded. Okay. Xingzi, you have to take care of yourself too. Is there still a lot of work recently? Gu Xingzi said, I'm going back to prepare my lines. I'll be filming later. Okay. Good luck. Gu Xingzi left the dressing room. He passed by earlier and heard a quarrel inside. Then, he heard Yun Shishir's voice. He was a little worried, so he walked in to take a look. Sure enough, he saw Yan Bingqing making things difficult for her. He said a few words to ease the situation, but naturally, he could not let Yun Shishir know that he was concerned about her. Yan Bingqing stood at the door and watched Gu Xingzi leave. Then, she turned around and sat in front of the mirror. Chapter 698. Ding Ning, who was in the middle of drawing Yun Shishir's lips, paused when she heard her order. Ding Ning, I told you to come over and do my makeup. Did you hear me? Ding Ning. Yan Bingqing turned her head and bellowed. Ding Ning immediately tried to curry favor with her. Sister Bingqing, can you wait for a while? I'll do Shishir's makeup right away, and then. Shishir? How affectionate. Yan Bingqing snorted. Could it be that she's more important than me in your heart? Ding Ning was forced to shut her mouth at once, and even her hands were trembling. Mu Shi finally spoke. Shishir's makeup will be done soon. Sister Bingqing, can't you wait a little longer? You want me to wait for her? What right do you have to talk to me? B*tch, Yan Bingqing said angrily. This time, Mu Shi did not dare to talk back to her. Yunshushi pursed her lips. She somewhat understood why those staff members were always giving her the cold shoulder. It was not that they were giving her the cold shoulder, someone was forcing them. Although Ding Ning was a top-notch stylist in the industry, she did not dare to slap Yan Bingqing's face like Yunshushi did. In this line of work, people did not dare to offend people easily, especially someone as powerful as Yan Bingqing. She knew that if she ran over to do Yan Bingqing's makeup now, Yunshushi would not mind. She had always been very magnanimous and would not fuss over such things. However, Ding Ning did not want to do this. Yunshushi treated her well. If she did this, she would inevitably feel guilty. Just as she was hesitating, Yunshushi took the lipstick from her hand, smiled, and said lightly, "Go over, I'll do it myself. You've already done the big project, so the rest won't be a problem." After applying some lip gloss and tracing the contours of her face, the makeup was done. There was no need to make things difficult for her. But, go ahead. It's nothing. Don't mind it. After Yunshushi finished speaking, she continued to draw her lips in front of the mirror. Feeling grateful and guilty, Ding Ning turned around and walked to Yan Bingqing to put on makeup. "Put on some pretty makeup for me. I don't want it to be like last time. At the very least, I want it to be prettier than Yunshushi." The pressure in Yan Bingqing's words made Ding Ning break out in cold sweat. She glared at Yunshushi again and said, "If your drawing isn't as good as Yunshuxi's, then get out of the cast." Ding Ning was angry, but he didn't dare to say anything. He thought, "You are a supporting role, and Yunshushi is the leading role. How can a supporting role steal the leading role?" However, he only dared to think about this in his heart. Yunshushi treated Yan Bingqing as heir. After finishing her makeup, she took the script and left the dressing room to consolidate it. While Ding Ning was styling Yan Bingqing's hair, she also took out the script and flipped through it. The next scene was a scene between her and Yunshushi. She skimmed through the script quickly, and a deep and sinister smile suddenly appeared on her lips. At the Mu residence, Mu Wanru was lying comfortably on the taffy chair. She held her phone in her hand and scrolled through Weibo expressionlessly. The servant waited on her and peeled grapes for her. After peeling one, she brought the pulp to her mouth. Mu Wanru opened her mouth and bit into it. She hadn't been out of the country for the past few days. Grandpa Mu insisted that she take care of the baby in peace, so she didn't know how the task she had asked Alan to do was going. She lowered her head and reached out to touch her flat belly. Chapter 699. She had to think of the next step before her lie was exposed. Otherwise, it would be difficult to smooth things over. The key point was that she had no idea what evidence Mu Yaja had on her. She guessed that Mu Yaja had investigated her identity. But she did not know how far he had investigated. This was why she was so anxious. She could not even fathom what Mu Yaja was thinking or what tricks he was up to. As she scrolled through Weibo, she saw that Yunshuxi's behind-the-scenes photos were almost everywhere. Whether it was the photo of Yunshushi smiling as she held a lunchbox, or the back view of Yunshushi standing upright in the waiting area, or the side view of her beautiful face when she occasionally flipped her hair. Even when she occasionally looked back and smiled, that stunning and refined face would attract an indiscriminate bombardment in the comments section. Beautiful. Too beautiful. The behind-the-scenes photos attracted countless fans. The movie had yet to be released, but its popularity was already through the roof. Yunshuxi's popularity, in particular, skyrocketed to the point where it even overshadowed Gu Xingzi's and became one of the top trending topics. Mu Wanru was so angry that her face was ashen, and her hand that was holding the phone kept tightening. Suddenly, a notification popped up on the phone. She had received a new email. Out of curiosity, she opened it slightly and browsed through it, but her face turned pale at that moment. Mu Wanru straightened up abruptly and stared straight at the photos in the email. In the photos, there were a few clearly photographed documents. She flipped through them one by one, and the more she looked, the more shocked she was. This. What was this? Another new email popped up. She was slightly stunned, and her fingertips were trembling as she opened the new email. There was only one short sentence in the email: "Do you want to get the documents back? See you at Jiangnan Commune at 1:00 this afternoon. Room 505, I'll wait for you." Jiangnan Commune was a famous private clubhouse in Beijing, and many rich people liked to gather there. There was no information about the sender, and no name, address, or even phone number could be found. However, in the email, there was something that made her tremble in fear. Who could it be? Who could have this information? This was almost the most damning evidence of her. Mu Wanru's face was pale with fright. The servants beside her saw that her face was extremely pale and asked her worriedly. She threw a tantrum and slapped each of them. "Get lost. Go away, don't bother me." The servants retreated one after another, afraid that she would be implicated in her anger. Mu Wanru stood up irritably and paced back and forth. Should he go? Who exactly was this person? Who could it be? How did they get hold of such evidence? Friend or foe? Wouldn't it be too risky if he went there rashly? She still didn't know the identity of this person, so she didn't dare to go. Moreover, Mu Xing did not allow her to leave the house for the past few days. He said that her condition was still unstable for the past 3 months, so he wanted her to recuperate at home. He even pushed the company's work to someone else. Just when Mu Wanru couldn't make up her mind, she received another email. She opened it and saw a message from that person. "If you don't come, don't blame me for being unscrupulous." He. Mu Wanru gritted her teeth. Who was this person to threaten her? It seemed that she had no choice but to go. Mu Wanru gripped her phone tightly and narrowed her eyes dangerously. She planned to find a chance to meet this mysterious person with ill intentions. Chapter 700. At the same time, everything on the set was proceeding in an orderly manner. Yun Shishir and Yan Bingqing had a scene together in the basement. However, at this moment, there was a depressing silence on the set. Everyone was dumbfounded as they stared at the two people surrounded by the crew. Smack! A loud slap was heard. Yan Bingqing's slap landed heavily on Yun Shishir's cheek. It was as if he had poured all of his strength into it, and it was mixed with a thunderous momentum. The crisp sound of the palm colliding with the cheek almost resounded throughout the set. Everyone was so shocked that their eyes widened, and they looked at all this in disbelief. Yun Shishir was caught off guard by this merciless slap. She widened her eyes in shock, unable to regain her senses. The air was so quiet that it was suffocating. This was especially so for Mu Xi, who was waiting by the side. She was so shocked that she could not close her mouth. Yan Bingqing retracted her hand and glared at her viciously. She shouted hysterically, "Yin Xiachuan, why did you come back at this time? Aren't you going to let me off? Or are you not going to let your brother off?" Her mournful and desperate voice echoed in the silent basement. It was shocking and powerful. At this moment, Yan Bingqing was unquestionably immersed in her role. Yun Shishir turned to look at her in shock, but she did not regain her senses for a long time. She narrowed her eyes at Yan Bingqing. She seemed to have underestimated this woman's means. Ruthless. She was extraordinarily ruthless. Yun Shishir was silent for a long time. It was so long that even after a minute, she did not recite her lines. Lin Fengtian's gaze left the monitor and fixed on Yan Bingqing, cold and suspicious. Cut. He stood up and asked Yun Shishir, "Yun Shishir, are you in a bad state? Or did you forget your lines? Why didn't you recite them?" Yun Shishir pursed her lips and smiled stiffly. "Sorry, Director Lin, I was distracted." Lin Fengtian was both angry and annoyed. He had expected better from her. Distracted? Why did you get distracted while filming a movie? Yun Shishir, show me some professionalism. This is work, do you understand? Don't be distracted anymore. Yes. I understand now. She widened her eyes in disbelief at this scene. What was going on with Lin Fengtian? He's a famous director. Can't he tell? Yan Bingqing was deliberately humiliating her. In this scene, Yin Xiaochuan returned to the country and entered the same company as Yin Dongyu. In the basement, she coincidentally bumped into Yin Dongyu's fiancée, Lin Hina, played by Yan Bingqing. Lin Hina, Yin Dongyu, and Yin Xiaochuan were childhood friends who grew up together. They could be considered childhood sweethearts. Her family was wealthy and she liked Yin Dongyu. Later on, as the Yin and Lin families had been on good terms for generations, she naturally became Yin Dongyu's fiancée. Whether it was during the rebellious period or after they grew up, Lin Hina had always been deeply in love with Yin Dongyu. However, in Yin Dongyu's heart, he had always loved Yin Xiaochuan deeply. Even when she went abroad, he still could not let go of his feelings for her. Lin Hina knew very well that she had never been in Yin Dongyu's heart. However, just as the two were about to get engaged, Yin Xiaochuan returned to the country at this time. When the two bumped into each other, Lin Hina lost control and questioned her ultimate purpose for returning. Usually, when there was a slap scene in a movie, it would rely on a special angle and position. Using a montage technique, one party would raise their hand and pretend to slap the other party, while the other party would exaggeratedly cover their face. Chapter 701. After that, they would change the camera angle, put on makeup, and reshoot the blood-red palm print on the victim's face. Then it would be considered a success. It was just that it was extremely difficult to control. Initially, Yan Bingqing had faked the slap, but whether it was intentional or not, Yun Shishir was very cooperative, but the scene of the slap was very abrupt. It was either that Yan Bingqing's hand was slow by a beat, or that Yun Shishir's hand was faster by a beat. There was no way to connect the slap. Lin Fengtian was so angry that he stomped his feet and gave Yan Bingqing a torrent of abuse. Yan Bingqing said innocently, "You can't blame me. My lines are so long, and I have to control my emotions and pay attention to my positioning. The most important thing is that I have to be careful not to hit her. It's too difficult. How do you want me to act?" Lin Fengtian was so angry that he frowned and gritted his teeth. "Why don't you let me try hitting her? Perhaps this would make the acting even more realistic. Director Lin, you are so professional. You must understand my difficulties. I also want to film this movie well to prove my acting skills. Moreover, I have filmed such scenes before. It's no big deal to be slapped once or twice. Yun Shishir is a serious newcomer. She will definitely agree to it," Yan Bingqing suggested seriously. After she finished speaking, she looked at Yun Shishir, who was standing at the side. "Do you agree?" Yun Shishir pursed her lips and looked at Lin Fengtian, but she did not speak for a long time. If other actors had said this, she would have agreed immediately. But how could Yun Shishir not know what Yan Bingqing was thinking when she suggested it? She just wanted to use this scene to viciously beat her up to vent her anger. Lin Fengtian frowned deeply. In fact, many actors would be more anxious than the director if they did not pass after a few lines. In a moment of desperation, they would take the initiative to suggest that it would be better to do it for real. Even the veteran actors would do it for real. For the sake of art, although they would suffer some physical pain, the effect would be very good. But would Yun Shishir agree? Lin Fengtian did not know what grudges there were between Yan Bingqing and Yun Shishir. He only knew that Yan Bingqing's performance in this movie was remarkable. She had indeed improved a lot. If he could get good results, of course he would agree. It all depended on Yun Shishir. When Yun Shishir heard Lin Fengtian's question, she couldn't reject him. She could only nod her head. Thus, the scene earlier occurred. Yan Bingqing's slap was indeed too heavy. Yun Shishir's body was soon dyed red, and a red handprint appeared on her face. Her cheeks were burning with pain. She ran over with heartache. Her fingertips touched her cheek, which was hot and swollen. She hated Yan Bingqing so much in her heart. Xianxia, does it hurt? She cautiously asked, feeling a lump in her throat. Xianxia hissed and coldly said, "It doesn't hurt." How could it not hurt? Yan Bingqing had used all her strength in that slap. She wanted nothing more than to slap her until she was covered in blood. However, compared to the pain, what she felt more was the bone-deep humiliation and embarrassment. Yan Bingqing did it on purpose. There was no doubt about it. She did not expect her to be so despicable as to use such means to take revenge. This is too much. How could she do this? She's heart ached so much that she was about to cry. Go and tell Director Lin that this scene should be shot from a different angle. If this goes on, who knows how many more times she will do it. Chapter 702. Even if she gave feedback to Lin Fengtian, could this scene be cut out? How could it be? In the usual plot, a slap scene would attract a lot of attention. How could it be cut out? She had experienced Yan Bingqing's unscrupulous methods. She's heart ached so much that she could only cry. She felt a little guilty, thinking that it was all her fault. If it were not for her, she would not have a grudge with Yan Bingqing. She hurriedly went up and used concealer to cover up the red and swollen handprint that Yan Bingqing had just slapped her. She could feel the pain just by looking at it. Gu Xingzi stood at the side and watched, his face as cold as stagnant water. He wanted to take a step forward, but his eyes darkened. He returned to his original spot and clenched his fists tightly. Lin Fengtian stomped his feet and reminded Xianxia again, "You must not be distracted this time. Try to pass it in one take, okay?" Xianxia nodded. She knew that Lin Fengtian was worried about her. He was afraid that she would not pass the first take and would have to suffer another slap. The actors got into their positions. "Hina, long time no see." Xianxia stood at the same spot with her hands behind her back. Her eyes were smiling, and her pure face seemed to have aged well. "In Xiachuan, why are you back?" Yan Bingqing was brought into the role and looked at her in disbelief. She pressed on and asked almost mournfully, "Why are you back? Can't I come back?" Xianxia widened her eyes in shock. She was puzzled by the hostility of Lin Hina, played by Yan Bingqing. "This is my home. If I don't come back, where else can I go?" Smack! Yan Bingqing gave her another heavy slap on the face, and it was the same spot. The force this time was even stronger than the previous slap. It was as if she had poured all her anger into it. She hated it. She hated Xianxia's arrogance to the core. Thinking of how she had been humiliated by her earlier, Yan Bingqing couldn't wait to tear her apart when she saw her calm face. Therefore, there was no need for him to brew his emotions. His anger was fully displayed. The strength of this slap almost made Xianxia lose her balance. Her body swayed, and the slap made one side of her ear ring. She felt a tinnitus. She finally steadied herself and raised her head while covering her face, only to see Yan Bingqing staring straight at her. She didn't say her lines for a long time. After a long pause, she suddenly stomped her feet and turned around in embarrassment. She made a face at Lin Fengtian and said, "Director, I forgot my lines." The entire place was dead silent. Gu Xingzi, in particular, had almost reached the limit of his tolerance. His handsome face was filled with anger, and a cold aura was constantly emanating from his body. This time, everyone's eyes could see it clearly. Yan Bingqing was obviously doing it on purpose. She was using this scene to suppress Xianxia. She was obviously trying to teach this newcomer some rules. Yang Mi sat at the side. It was her turn to act in the next scene, but because of the continuous NGs in this scene, it wasn't her turn yet. She had to touch up her makeup again and again. She could also tell that this Yan Bingqing had ulterior motives. This was her usual way of teaching newcomers a lesson. It wasn't as if she had never experienced it before. Lin Fengtian sat in front of the monitor. Through the camera, he looked at Yun Shishir, who was standing still in the middle of the set. She stood there expressionlessly. Her eyes were very, very calm. Her face was pale and colorless. The other side of her face was so red that it looked as if it was dripping blood. The handprint was prominent again. Chapter 703. At the side, many of Yan Bingqing's fans were mocking and sneering at her. Countless vicious criticisms were like poisonous swords stabbing into her body. However, she acted as if she did not hear them. Her face was calm, arrogant, and elegant, as if she was an otherworldly fairy who was untainted by the dust of the mortal world. Yan Bingqing gritted her teeth as she watched. She secretly glared at her angrily. She stood there quietly. Even such humiliation couldn't make her frown in the slightest. Yan Bingqing originally thought that after 2 slaps, Yun Shishir would definitely beg her for mercy shamelessly. If it were someone else, even if they did not beg her for mercy, they would cry and beg her not to hit them so hard. However, she did not. She only stood there silently, her body as light as a butterfly's wings. Yan Bingqing snorted. Anyway, she still had a lot of time. She wanted to see how long Yun Shishir could last. Slap, Yun Shishir's face was slapped to one side. There was another buzzing sound. She even suspected that her eardrums were going to be pierced by her. Yan Bingqing's conciliatory laughter faintly sounded in her ears. Director Lin, I did not adjust my state just now. I can't connect. Lin Fengtian said impatiently, Yan Bingqing, this is the film set. It's not a place for you to mess around. Although he did not know what happened between Yan Bingqing and Yun Shishir, after watching a few NGs, even if he was blind, it was clear that Yan Bingqing was doing it on purpose. Therefore, there was a hint of displeasure in his words. Yan Bingqing did not care about it. So what if Yun Shishir had Lin Fengtian's protection? Did she have the ability to make her fly away? She was not afraid. Gu Xingze walked to her side and suppressed his anger. Yan Bingqing, that's enough. Xingze, I don't understand what you're talking about. What do you mean? Yan Bingqing was a little displeased. You did it on purpose. Gu Xingze's voice was cold and his eyes were sharp. If you continue to be like this, do you believe that I will ban me? Yan Bingqing continued his words and rolled her eyes. You're actually treating me like this for a newbie. Xingze, to think that we've been partners for so many years. For my sake, don't make things difficult for her. Okay, I really didn't do it on purpose. It was really an accident. Yan Bingqing explained again. Even if Gu Xingze did not believe it, there was nothing he could do. He knew that if Yun Shishir gave in to Yan Bingqing, she might suffer less physical pain. However, he believed that with Yun Shishir's stubborn character, she would not bow down to him. Slap, Yun Shishir turned her face to the side. Her body was as stiff as a rock and her face was as white as paper. Cut. Yan Bingqing glanced at her from the corner of her eyes. Aya, what's wrong? Why did I lose my composure when I saw your face? Yun Shishir, you're so annoying. Yun Shishir smiled calmly like an emotionless doll. She turned her face and looked at her with a glassy gaze. Sister Bingqing, your script skills are extraordinarily bad. You, Yun Shishir, you're so stubborn. Yan Bingqing threatened fiercely. Slap, Yun Shishir, your expression just now was not right. But it's okay, it's okay. You're a newbie. It's okay to make mistakes occasionally. Just be careful next time. Yun Shishir closed her eyes and seemed to be adjusting her emotions. Chapter 704. I'm also troubled that you can't remember the same line after repeating it so many times. Yun Shishir, Yan Bingqing shot her a venomous look. Immediately after, she laughed sinisterly. Alright, cheap wretch. Let's wait and see. Smack. Director Lin, Xianxia gave me a fright when she glared at me on purpose. Will she bear a grudge against me? Cut. Xianxia did not know how many NGs she had taken or how many slaps she had received. Her body swayed slightly. Her blood seemed to have frozen, and her hands and feet were extremely cold. Even raising her head was difficult. Humiliated, unbearable, and the onlookers who were either indifferent or pointing fingers at her were so oppressive that she could hardly breathe. This feeling was as if someone was strangling her throat. She had never been so embarrassed before. Her self-esteem was like her face that was about to be smashed and trampled under someone's feet. She was in an extremely sorry state. Her eyes could not help but sting, but she held it in and forced her tears back. Let's take a break. Everyone, adjust your state of mind. She immediately helped Xianxia back to the lounge. Looking at her swollen cheeks, tears gushed out. This is too much, too much. Dingyu stood at the side, angry and annoyed. She kept picking up powder to cover up the wound on her face. She applied layer after layer, but it could not cover it up at all. Xianxia pursed her lips. This was probably her most embarrassing moment. A black Bentley was parked in the parking lot of Huanyu Tower. Minyu walked to the car and opened the door. Wuxia slowly got out of the car. There was an important board meeting at Huanyu Tower in the afternoon that required his attendance. In the past, there was no one in the basement parking lot. However, Wuxia saw people walking back and forth in a hurry. Judging from their attire, they seemed to be some staff. He immediately ordered Minyu to find out. Minyu ran over. After a while, he came back and reported, "Boss, a production crew is filming here." Filming? Wuxia frowned. What crew? Yeah, it's a movie that Huanyu invested in previously, The Green Apple, directed by Lin Fengtian. Lin Fengtian? Was it the movie that Xianxia starred in? Wuxia pursed his lips. He rarely paid attention to news about the entertainment industry, but he knew that Xianxia's first film was Lin Fengtian's The Green Apple. So, she's here too? Let's go and take a look. Minyu said hesitantly, but... Boss, the board meeting is about to start. It won't take long. We'll leave after we take a look. Okay, said Minyu as he nodded his head and followed her in silence. Wuxia walked to the filming location. The crew was already in position. He looked towards the center of the set and saw Xianxia and Yan Bingqing standing face to face. From his angle, he could only see half of Xianxia's face. Her expression was as cold as snow. Her eyes were empty and lifeless. She was barely breathing. She was really barely breathing. It was as if all the energy in her body had been sucked out of her like silk being peeled out of a cocoon. All that was left was an empty shell. It made one's heart ache just by looking at her. Yan Bingqing stared at her face. Her mouth opened and closed as if she was questioning her sternly. However, she was too far away to hear clearly. Minyu said, "What's going on?" Miss Yun's acting is amazing. Chapter 705. Wuxia pursed his thin lips. Even though he knew that it was all an act, his heart still ached for her. Let's go. Just as he turned around, he heard the crisp sound of a slap coming from behind him. Slap. His powerful and resonant voice echoed in the empty basement. Wuxia paused in his steps, and the lines on his shoulders immediately stiffened. He turned around abruptly and happened to catch sight of Xianxia being slapped harshly by Yan Bingqing. That slap almost caused her body to sway. Her silky hair scattered on the side of her face, making her look very pathetic. Wuxia pursed his thin lips tightly. In an instant, his whole body emitted a heart-palpitating cold aura. When Minyu saw this, he held his breath for a moment. Xianxia felt as if thunder had exploded in her ears when this slap came. Accompanied by a sharp pain from the corners of her eyes and eardrums, the world seemed to have lost all sound in an instant. She seemed to be unable to hear anything. Yan Bingqing did not seem to notice her unusually pale complexion. She only stomped her feet and turned around to shout, "Director Lin, what should we do?" Lin Fengtian's temper was at its peak. He almost shouted impatiently, D***it. What's wrong with you again? If you can't act well, you can get lost and don't have to film anymore. Yan Bingqing said innocently and aggrievedly, look at Yun Shishir, she's in such a dissociated state. How can I go through my lines? She's obviously not cooperating with me. Mu Shi watched from the side with trepidation, afraid that Yun Shishir would collapse in the next second. She was conflicted, though, and hoped that Yun Shishir would just collapse like this and stop forcing herself to suffer. This Yan Bingqing was still questioning Yun Shishir's unwillingness to cooperate. Did she not see how much effort she had put into it? Who could withstand it? Lin Fengtian suppressed his anger and looked at Yun Shishir. The next moment, he was stunned. Yun Shishir tried her best to support her body that was on the verge of collapse. She slowly raised her head and opened her eyes. Everyone looked at her. The corner of her left eye was filled with blood, which was extremely shocking. Cold sweat trickled down his cheeks and into his lips. It was astringent and salty. In a daze. The heels of his body suddenly trembled, and he was unable to stand still. There was a moment of darkness in front of his eyes, followed by a dizzying dizziness. Yun Shishir's body swayed. It was obvious that she was about to fall over. Her condition was obviously not right. Lin Fengtian suddenly stood up from behind the monitor. Yan Bingqing also saw that the corners of Yun Shishir's eyes were bloodshot. She smiled shyly and said, Shishir, I'm sorry. Did I hit him a little too hard just now? But you can't blame me. Suddenly, she lowered her voice and said viciously, it's your fault for having such an annoying face. Yun Shishir was in a daze. It was as if she could not hear Yan Bingqing's vicious and mocking laughter. The blood in her body seemed to be frozen and could no longer flow. In her chaotic consciousness, all her willpower was on the verge of dissipating. Her body trembled for a moment. Her heels could no longer support her heavy and collapsing body. Every strand of nerves in her brain snapped as a wave of darkness fiercely assaulted her. Yun Shishir's body went limp and she fell backward. Shishir, it was as if countless people were rushing to her and calling her name. Gu Xingzi could no longer sit back and watch. Seeing her fall to the ground, he got up and hurried to her. Chapter 706. Before Gu Xingzi could react, he staggered a few steps. When he looked up, he saw a tall and ruthless figure walking quickly to Yun Shishir's side. Mu Yaja? Why is he here? At this moment, everyone on set was stunned. Even Yan Bingqing stood rooted to the ground with a pale face. She did not expect Yun Shishir to be so weak that she fainted with just a few slaps. However, she did not think about how much strength she had put into each of her slaps. Could an ordinary person take it? The set keeper and assistant surrounded Yun Shishir. Mu Shi was at a loss as she squatted at the side. She looked at Yun Shishir's red and swollen face and cried sadly. She took out her phone with trembling hands and dialed the ambulance. Mu Yaja was filled with anger. He pushed the crowd aside and bent down slightly to hug Yun Shishir. His slender fingers caressed her red and swollen face. From his angle earlier, he could not see her entire face. He only thought that she was acting when she looked terrible. However, when he heard the slap and saw her unconscious on the ground, he felt suffocated and found it difficult to breathe. Immediately after, an uncontrollable anger rose in his heart. It was a kind of anger that wanted to destroy the world. Mu Yaja caressed her cheek gently. The side of her face that was slapped was boiling hot, as if it was going to burn his fingertips. It was so red that it looked like blood was dripping from it. This was definitely not something that could be caused by a slap. Mu Yaja's heart ached as he hugged her shoulders tightly. Heartache, anger, and vexation surged through his limbs and bones. He took a deep breath to suppress the urge to smash the set. He slowly raised his head and looked at Yan Bingqing, the instigator. Just now, he had seen with his own eyes that she had slapped his woman. She actually dared to slap her? And she was so ruthless? Was she courting death? Yan Bingqing received his incomparably sinister gaze, which was like an eagle's drill. Mu Yaja's eyes were abnormally cold. He was as fierce as a jaguar eyeing its prey, as if he would pounce on her in the next second with a roar and swallow her whole, not even leaving her bones behind. Yan Bingqing couldn't help but take a few steps back as if she had seen a terrifying scourge. Her whole body was drenched in cold sweat. Initially, when Mu Yaja rushed onto the set, no one present recognized this godlike, aristocratic man who had descended from the heavens. After all, these people had never seen the real face of the CEO of Dishing Financial Group. Yan Bingqing did not recognize him at first, but after taking a closer look, she realized that this man was the crown prince of the Mu Group, Mu Yaja. What was his relationship with Yun Shishir? Seeing him hugging Yun Shishir and looking so nervous that he lost control, Yan Bingqing was confused for a moment. She suddenly heard someone's reminder that day. Yun Shishir is a newbie with an impressive background. Sister Bingqing, it's better if you don't offend her. Impressive background, could it be that the impressive background that person had mentioned was referring to? Yan Bingqing thought about it carefully and couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. The hand that slapped Yun Shishir just now was still numb. However, at this moment, at the thought that Yun Shishir might be Mu Yaja's woman, Yan Bingqing couldn't help but feel a chill all over her body. Even her toes couldn't help but feel cold. She had only wanted to teach this newbie a lesson. Chapter 707. But who was she? She did not take her seriously, spouting nonsense time and time again, and repeatedly offended her superiors. She was determined to teach this newbie a lesson and teach her the rules. Unexpectedly, she seemed to be Mu Yaja's woman. Yan Bingqing's face was blank. She was stunned. Mu Yaja looked up and hugged Yun Shishir in his arms. Her body was so thin and petite, and she was so light, like a feather, that he could hug her completely in his arms with one hand effortlessly. He walked in front of Yan Bingqing, and his gaze was like a cold sword piercing her body. In an instant, Yan Bingqing felt as if her body was riddled with holes by his gaze. Did you hit her? Mu Yaja's thin lips parted slightly, and a few cold words escaped from his cold and arrogant lips. The hidden murderous intent in his handsome eyes could not be concealed and was about to burst out. Yan Bingqing shuddered and lowered her head, not daring to look into his eyes. Her heart was shivering. However, she did not dare to admit it, let alone deny it. There were so many pairs of eyes present, and many of them were Yun Shishir's men. If she denied it, someone would step forward to accuse her in the next second. However, even if she had the courage of a bear and the courage of a leopard, she did not dare to admit it directly. She was afraid that the man would crush her in the next second. This was not an exaggeration. This man definitely had the ability to do so. Mu Yaja. This name was feared by many. He had ascended to the throne at the age of 18 and had played with many bloody battles. A single finger was enough to crush her into smithereens. If only she had known that the person behind Yun Shishir was him. She would not be willing to go against Yun Shishir no matter what. Mu Shi, who was standing at the side, was trembling with anger. Although she did not know who the man hugging Yun Shishir was, she could tell that Yan Bingqing was in awe of him. It could even be said that she was afraid and terrified of him. He must be a man with a high status. With this thought in mind, Mu Shi was no longer afraid of Yan Bingqing's terrifying background. She pointed at Yan Bingqing and complained with tears in her eyes, "It's her. She's the one who hit her. She's deliberately making things difficult for Shishir." Xirshi's acting clearly had no problems, but she deliberately found fault with Xirshi and even asked for real. Using acting as an excuse, she slapped Xirshi a few times. Wu's Mu, she's wrong. Xirshi's so pitiful, Xirshi, of course. Mu Shi's tearful complaint was echoed by the others on the set. We all saw it. Yan Bingqing did it on purpose. Although it's an act, she clearly could have faked it, but she wanted to hit her for real. Yes, yes, yes. One slap wasn't enough. She even pretended to forget her lines and slapped Xirshi a few times. I can't even count how many times she slapped her. That's right. She's usually targeting Yun Xirshi. We've all seen it, but Yun Xirshi is modest and docile to everyone. Everyone likes her very much. Yan Bingqing is too much. She deliberately made NGs and hit her harder each time. Let's send her to the hospital. I'm really worried that something might happen. That's right. Let's send her to the hospital. Yan Bingqing is very heavy-handed. I hope nothing happens to Xirshi. Otherwise, we won't be able to forgive her. Angry accusations were incessant. Accusations kept popping up around him, one after another. Chapter 708. Yun Xirshi had a good reputation on the set. Whether it was the crew or the assistants of other artists, they were all polite and gentle. Therefore, at the critical moment, many people did not hesitate to offend Yan Bingqing and stood out bravely to point out the culprit. Yan Bingqing's heart was filled with anger and anger. She raised her head fiercely and looked around. Her sinister gaze constantly swept through the crowd. Under her venomous gaze, everyone was intimidated by her gaze, and the voices of those who were complaining about the injustice gradually quieted down. Even though they felt that it was unfair to Yun Xirshi, no one dared to stand up against her in all seriousness. Yan Bingqing defended herself loudly. I didn't do it on purpose. I'm just not in the best condition today and made a few NGs, but I definitely didn't do it on purpose. She turned her head and looked at Mu Yaja with pleading eyes. Chairman Mu, please believe me. You did it on purpose. A clear female voice was heard from behind. Yan Bingqing's body stiffened. Her reddened eyes swept over and saw that it was Yang Jian's voice. She stood out from the crowd expressionlessly and looked at her coldly. She was not afraid of the threat in her eyes and said calmly, I saw it. She did it on purpose. What did you say? Sister Bingqing, we are all actors. This kind of mistake can be avoided. Even if you really want to hit her, don't you think that you used too much strength? You don't have to deliberately explain anything. There is a recording of the NGs just now. Take it out and see. Won't it be clear at a glance? Yang Mi's words were neither servile nor overbearing, making Yan Bingqing's face fall. I saw it too. I saw it too, I saw it too. Seeing that Yang Mi had stood out, the other small-time actors also gathered their courage and stood out recklessly to accuse her righteously. Yan Bingqing was frightened. She trembled and stepped back. She shook her head frantically. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I really didn't do it on purpose. You guys are clearly working together to harm me. Just as she finished speaking, Mu Yaja suddenly walked forward, stretched out his hand and strangled her neck. Cough. Yan Bingqing was caught off guard. Her throat was choked, and she couldn't breathe. Her face and ears turned red. Mu Yaja looked straight at her face. His eyes were cold and his face was cold and livid. Who gave you the guts? Cough. Yan Bingqing's hand struggled wildly, tightly holding onto his wrist, trying to break free. But she didn't know where he got his strength from, but no matter how hard she tried, his hand didn't move at all. He continued to pinch her so hard that it felt like he was going to break her throat. There were so many people at the scene, but no one dared to step forward to stop him. Mu Yaja's aura was too terrifying. It was as if there were countless sharp blades shooting out from his body, making it difficult for people to approach him. She was really pinching him. She was pinching with all her might. His entire body was filled with anger and indignation. It was as if his rationality was about to be burned to ashes. Yan Bingqing's face was ferocious. The veins on her forehead were bulging. Her eyes were wide open, and her red face was full of suffocating pain. Cough, cough, the muscles on her face were almost distorted, and her eyeballs couldn't move. It was as if she would stop breathing in the next second. Pain, so painful, Yan Bingqing's consciousness was on the verge of blurring. She struggled to turn her eyes and cast a pleading look at Gu Xingzi. Chapter 709. Pitiful and pathetic. Even if Mu Yaja did not do it, he would still do it. Yan Bingqing looked at Gu Xingzi's cold expression, and the despair in her heart grew. Her vision turned black and white. Am I going to die? Is this man really going to strangle me to death? Just as Yan Bingqing thought that she was going to be strangled to death, the ambulance is here. Someone screamed, and the ambulance's signature siren was heard outside the door. After a while, paramedics rushed in with a stretcher. Huanyu Tower was located in the downtown area, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. A medical center was just a street away, and since it was not rush hour, the ambulance came quickly. Where is the victim? The paramedics shouted hurriedly. Mu Yaja threw her to the ground mercilessly and said coldly, Yan Bingqing, you deserve to die. With that, he hugged Yun Shishir and carried her onto the stretcher. The paramedics asked about the cause of the accident and did a simple check. They then opened Yun Shishir's eyelids to take a look. Lin Fengtian immediately went forward and asked, how is it? We suspect that it's subconjunctival hemorrhage. We'll have to check again at the hospital. The paramedics concisely reported the results of the check. Lin Fengtian also wanted to follow the ambulance to the hospital to see what was going on. Mu Yaja glanced coldly at Lin Fengtian from the corner of his eyes. The latter pursed his lips and tactfully took a step back. Mu Shi also wanted to follow the ambulance to the hospital to see Yun Shishir's condition, but when she saw Mu Yaja's terrifying aura, she did not dare to go forward. Lin Fengtian, arrange today's videotapes. Mu Yaja then coldly said to Minyu, tell the board of directors to postpone the meeting. Yes, boss. Also, keep an eye on her. Wait for me to deal with her. Yes. Mu Yaja got into the car and left with the ambulance. Minyu immediately made a call. After a while, a few men in black suits rushed over and took the semi-conscious Yan Bingqing away. Yang Mi stood on the spot. She looked calm on the surface, but her heart was in turmoil. There was no doubt that she had never resisted Yan Bingqing's power. In the production team, Yan Bingqing's privileges were very important. This was not the first time she had worked with Yan Bingqing. They had worked together on several projects before, and she had always been forced to submit to Yan Bingqing's power. Someone whispered to her, Yang Mi, don't you dislike Yun Shishir? Why are you helping her today? I'm not helping her, Yang Chang said calmly. I'm just helping myself. That person seemed to be puzzled, but he did not ask. Yang Chang smiled and said, besides, even though I don't like her, I didn't say I hated her, right? You've all seen how overboard Yan Bingqing is today. Are we still going to remain silent at this time? She indeed did not like Yun Shishir. When they first met at Huanyu's cocktail party, her limelight was stolen by this newcomer. She was sharp and had already vaguely guessed that Yun Shishir had a powerful background. She was different from Yan Bingqing. Yan Bingqing could get to where she was today because she had a strong background. Although Yang Mi also had a financial backer, she relied on her own diligence and hard work most of the time. The entertainment industry was like a huge vat of dye. It was not wrong at all. Before she entered the entertainment industry, she was a forthright and straightforward girl. It was because of this personality that she offended many people after she entered the entertainment industry. She was also forced to learn how to scheme and fight openly and secretly. Gradually, her personality was polished into a sophisticated person. Chapter 7:10. Although she didn't like her, she didn't hate her. After getting along with her for so many days, Xianxia was humble and didn't have a sharp edge. Once, Jianghu almost fainted from heatstroke. Xianxia noticed her strange condition in time and sent her to the infirmary. On the way, she vomited because of heatstroke and dirtied Xianxia's clothes, but she didn't show a trace of disgust on her face. Perhaps it was from that day onwards that Jianghu's impression of her completely changed. However, because of Yan Bingqing, Jianghu couldn't show how close she was to her. Compared to Xianxia, Jianghu hated Yan Bingqing more. She hated how she used her strong backing to bully the other actors in the crew. Flattering the strong and stepping on the weak, using unscrupulous means to create hype, it was disgusting. However, Jianghu didn't dare to go against Yan Bingqing. She was no match for Yan Bingqing. However, just now, Jianghu saw the murderous look in Wuxia's eyes when he looked at Yan Bingqing. Jianghu immediately understood how important Xianxia was in this powerful man's heart. Xianxia was Wuxia's woman. After being in the industry for so many years, she hadn't seen Wuxia many times. However, it was the first time in her life that she saw an expression other than indifference and coldness on this man's face. Before this, she even thought that nothing could change this man's expression. Xianxia was one. Jianghu took the opportunity to use Xianxia's position in Wuxia's heart to get rid of Yan Bingqing, who was a thorn in her side. She was certain that Wuxia wouldn't let Yan Bingqing off after hurting Xianxia so much. In Mu Group's private hospital. In the doctor's office, there was a dead atmosphere. The tense atmosphere was like a taut bowstring, ready to explode at any moment. Xianxia was lying on the treatment bed with her eyes closed. She was still unconscious. She was so quiet that there was almost no sound. At the side, the nurse stood trembling as she looked at the man sitting on the chair with a cold expression. The doctor took the report and flipped it back and forth. Even though he pretended to be calm, his hand holding the report was still trembling slightly. Wuxia stared at him expressionlessly, his thin lips pursed into a cold and arrogant arc. Just by sitting there without saying a word, his aura was enough to intimidate people. A nurse came in with medicine. As soon as she made a little noise, his sharp eyes pierced over and he coldly ordered, "Quiet." That gaze was like a sharp sword that was piercingly cold, and it hadn't been unsheathed, yet it was sufficient to arouse fear in others. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry, young master, I didn't mean it." The nurse apologized nervously. Wuxia's eyes turned cold. "Didn't I tell you to be quiet?" "Shut up." "Yes." The nurse immediately bit her lip and didn't dare to make a sound. He turned his eyes and looked at the doctor. The latter was creeped out by his cold gaze. The man's aura was so terrifying that he couldn't stay calm while sitting in front of him. "How is it? Is it serious?" Wuxia asked, his voice sounding nervous. The doctor raised his head and cleared his throat. "It can be said that it's serious, but it's not that serious." "I don't want an ambiguous answer." Wuxia's eyes showed a trace of displeasure. Chapter 7:11. After a pause, he continued, "The only thing that is more serious is that her eardrum is perforated." "This is more serious." "Serious? How serious?" Wuxia suddenly opened his eyes. "What do you mean by perforated eardrum?" The doctor immediately explained it to him. "Miss Yun's eardrum is perforated due to external damage. The eardrum is perforated like a crack, and there is a small amount of blood clot. However, the human eardrum has a strong self-healing ability. It should heal in half a month." "Half a month?" Wuxia frowned. The doctor was frightened by his angry tone and was drenched in cold sweat. He carefully looked at his scary face. Mu Yaja clenched his fists. Was the injury that serious? This Yen Bingqing was so ruthless that she actually perforated her eardrum. Damn it! Mu Yaja looked up and said in a cold voice, "Will it affect my hearing in the future?" The doctor said, "If you take good care of it, it probably won't." I don't want such a vague answer. Mu Yaja frowned and knocked on the table with his fingertips. He said coldly, "Listen, no matter what conjunctival hemorrhage or perforated eardrum, I want her to be in good condition. If she leaves any sequelae." His voice deepened, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. The meaning behind his words was self-evident. The doctor's shoulders trembled. He was frightened by his cold face and immediately smiled apologetically, indicating that he would do his best. He was afraid that if something happened to Miss Yun, he would not be able to keep his job. Mu Yaja walked to the bedside and reached out to touch Yun Shishir's calm face. Looking at her swollen cheeks, he could not control the anger in his heart. His heart ached. His heart ached. But at the same time, he was secretly annoyed. How could this woman be so stupid? Did she just let herself be humiliated like this? Slap after slap, did she not feel pain? When people hit her, did she not know how to retaliate? In front of him, she was sharp-tongued like a cat. When angered, she would bare her fangs and claws and scratch him. Why did she only feel wronged when it came to others? He did not believe that if she retaliated, who would dare to do anything to her? If she was not injured at this moment, Mu Yaja was afraid that he would not be able to control himself and bite her lips hard. Bite her and wake her up. But at this moment, looking at her bloodless, snow-white face, there was only a faint pain in his heart. The nurse pushed the hospital bed over, intending to move Yun Shishir to another bed. However, a few of the nurses were careless and used too much strength in their hands, causing her to feel pain. Yun Shishir, who was still in a daze, frowned at their careless actions. Mu Yaja grumbled, "You're hurting her." The group of people instantly turned pale with fright and stood rooted to the ground. Clumsy thing, scram. Mu Yaja was extremely irritated. He pushed the bed away and personally carried Yun Shishir in his arms. His movements were extremely gentle and careful, as if she was the most precious treasure in the world. He held her in his arms and used his hands to support her body. In her daze, Yun Shishir seemed to feel a great sense of security from his arms. She actually snuggled closer to his chest. Her delicate little face was buried in his arms. Her brows gradually relaxed. Because of the dependence that this action unintentionally revealed, Mu Yaja's heart calmed down. In an instant, a certain part of his heart softened.